Hey, good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. That's right, I'm your Farb, and I'm with you till about 7 o'clock when we hand it over to Mark Levin. So a lot of stuff to cover here as we kick off another exciting week of coverage. All things will be taken care of in this next couple of hours. It's time for our 2024 update. We'll start there. Got a lot of stuff to go over, and you know what? I don't want to sound like I'm over optimistic and getting ahead of myself here, but I'm starting to feel good about things because what I'm detecting, each and every day I spend an inordinate amount of time looking at all the information that's out there and reading every story that I can find and then applying, the knowledge that I've sort of gained over some 31 years covering politics in Washington. And I'm starting to feel like this is looking better and better for Donald Trump. I don't want to get ahead of myself. And again, it's very early, but there are signs that he's starting to pull away in a pretty significant way. And Joe Biden just can't get a break. I mean, if the Democrats, for example, hoped that the State of the Union was going to be a changing moment, it was going to be a sort of an important inflection point in their effort to try to revive Biden's campaign, it just didn't turn out that way. And at CNN, they looked at Biden's popularity before and his popularity after. And they detected absolutely no change. Here is a guy by the name of Harry Enton. See, I watch CNN sometimes, so you don't have to. Giving his analysis of where Joe Biden is after the State of the Union address.
Pre-State of the Union, positive views towards Joe Biden, 33%. How about now? Well, the same. 33%, no change. The negative went up a little bit, 50% to 54%, but that's within the margin of error. The bottom line that you should be taking away here is that there has been no change in the popularity of Joe Biden among all Americans. Not a big surprise because traditionally speaking, we haven't seen that change. I know that there was some of that immediate, post-reaction polling that suggested maybe there would be, but in reality, 33, don't have to be a mathematical wizard to know. That ain't any movement.
That's right. So that's 33% who had a positive view, which is a very low number. They're trying to put the best spin they are. They start out with a positive view. So only 33% of Americans have a positive view. Well, that's basically hardcore Democrats. They make up about 33 or maybe actually a little less than that of the overall population or the voting population. 33% had a positive view, and then they sort of scoot over the fact that the negative views actually went up from 50 to 54. Oh, well, that's within the margin of error. They're quick to point out, but still, it went up. So if I'm reading this correctly, Joe Biden did not do himself one bit of good in that State of the Union address where he was shrieking and gesticulating and gesticulating or whatever you want to call it, all the gestures that were going on with his hands. It seemed like it didn't work for him at all. Speaking of the State of the Union and all of the hand movements and the excitement and the shout, it was really when you saw him there, you looked at him, you said, that's not the way he appears most of the time at the White House. He's very subdued. They call him Sleepy Joe, right? Very subdued. Usually, for example, when he goes to the podium, he shuffles up to the podium and he puts his hand on the podium and he rests. But then compare and contrast that with what happened at the State of the Union address. He was agitated almost, and his hand movements were just so rapid and sort of confusing. Now, here's this story from townhall.com. President Biden gave his 2024 State of the Union address at 9 p.m., way past his usual 4 p.m. dinner and bedtime. How did the 81-year-old president stay awake and coherent enough to make a 90-minute speech in front of the nation? Well, a psychiatrist told the Washington Times that he believes Biden may have been medicated for his address. citing speculation that the president usually exhibits signs of dementia due to his regular episodes of aggression toward reporters and inability to remember things. Dr. Carol Lieberman, a forensic psychiatrist based in Beverly Hills, California, told the outlet that Biden may have been given a stimulant to keep him alert and focused. Throughout the address, the president often shouted words and moved his hands at a more rapid rate than he normally does. If you look at how Joe Biden usually is, slow and stumbling, compared to how he was at the State of the Union, fiery and angry, these are signs that are typical for someone taking Adderall or amphetamines, she said. Dr. Lieberman, who has not personally examined the president, said the signs of potential pharmaceutical use go beyond how Mr. Biden spoke during the 90-minute speech, but also in his mannerisms. For example, and this is something I just mentioned, Mr. Biden generally rests his hands on the podium while delivering a speech from the teleprompter. During the State of the Union, he frequently gestured and moved his hand at a rapid rate. At various points, Mr. Biden appeared to slur some of his words. That's not new for the president, who sometimes slurs his words when he gets excited, but Dr. Lieberman said the speed in which he slurred suggested he was, he had a little help from some kind of medication. It was word salad on speed. Lieberman also pointed out signs that cause her to believe Biden's mental health is rapidly declining. She highlighted some of the more notable instances of the evening, such as Biden referring to Laken Riley as Lincoln Riley, and she said he mentioned Moscow in a sentence where it made no sense. She also noted how Biden was not able to correct his mistakes. He couldn't correct his mistakes. I mean, anyone could trip over Laken Riley's name, but he didn't know how to correct it. If he knew enough about her to talk about her, he would know enough to call her by the right name, she said. I saw a thing that, I got to say, Hannity on TV did an amazing thing where he compared and contrasted Joe Biden at the White House on a regular day when reporters are, shuffled in to cover this, that, or the president has some statement that he makes, and he always seems to be rather low-key, mumbly, and seems to be lost. And then they would contrast it with what was going on at the speech in the State of the Union. And you know what? It almost makes, do I know for sure that Joe Biden took Adderall? No. Do I know that he took some kind of drug? No, and nobody does for sure because they're not going to tell you. But boy, it sure was a marked difference, wasn't it? Well, regardless, the good news for our side of the equation is that speech didn't help him one whit and may have hurt him a little. So, well, if they had hoped to turn around their campaign with the State of the Union address, the evidence now suggests didn't do too well. By the way, CNN launched about 2 months ago, its Road to 270 election projection map, in which the pro-Biden network conceded that Donald Trump had enough states solidly in his quarter to make him win the presidency again. They had him in the early going, they had him at 272, which you need 270 electoral votes to win, and they had him at 272. And the point is that they're making is they've been afraid to update the map since then because it probably has gotten worse. Despite the project showing Biden heading for defeat, CNN tried to find a silver lining. If Biden were to win all the current toss-up states, he'd still need to claw back at least one of the 3 states he won in 2020, Georgia, Michigan, and Nevada, that are currently slightly leaning Trump's way. The network explained it's not difficult to imagine all 3 of those battleground states moving into the toss-up category once the campaign becomes more engaged. But they haven't. It's been 2 months since that map came out. There's been plenty of new polling, but at this post, CNN's Road to 270 hasn't been touched since it was debuted. Everything is exactly the same. The Real Clear Politics people just put their map out, I noticed the other day, and they're much more conservative about battleground states. They list something like 11 battleground states, but honestly, I think you have to be honest. There aren't 11 battleground states. There's 6 or 7. And the last time I looked, I could pull it up real quick just to find out. It looks like the Real Clear Politics average of polls. They have it. Yeah, here we go. Wisconsin, Trump up by 1. So that's a battleground state right there. Arizona, Trump up by 5. Okay. That's getting to be beyond the margin of error. Georgia, Trump by 6. Michigan, Trump by 3.6. Pennsylvania, it's practically even. They have Biden up by 0.8, but the latest polls show Trump winning Pennsylvania by a narrow margin. So that's a battleground state. North Carolina, Trump 5.7. Nevada, Trump up by 7.7. And yet when you look at their map, it seems that they are being very, very conservative about all that. You see, I have it right here. They have the last time I looked, but when I do my assessment of it, I have him at 268. So CNN has him at 272, which is already over the top, and I have him at 268. So we'll see, where it stands. Other news from 2024. Election results and looking at the election as we are getting deeper and deeper into it. Lara Trump, who's, newly elected co-chair of the RNC, says it's time for the RNC to up its game and compete with more strategy against the Democrats. We've been playing checkers and the Democrats have been playing chess. And she says they're going to get into harvest balloting in a bigger way. Unfortunately, we don't have one day of voting. We don't have paper ballots. We don't have voter ID everywhere. So we have to play the hand that we're dealt, noting that the importance of early voting and mail-in voting is impossible, should be taken advantage of. We have votes banked as well as we head into Election Day. We're not playing catch-up on November 5th. Man, does that make sense to me? Why we weren't doing that already is hard to believe. Republicans generally like to vote on Election Day, but the Democrats were just piling in the votes and just working it and banking a bunch of votes. And it was really hard, to overcome the lead they had. And if you count on all the votes you're going to get on Election Day only, you run the risk of having a situation where whether it's bad and it suppresses the vote or something happens. So you definitely want to put the votes in the bank. If you're pretty sure you know how you're going to vote, go ahead and vote. Get them in there early. That's going to be the new mantra from the RNC. Trump crushes Biden on all voter issues from immigration to economy, according to an ABC poll. This is from the Post-Millennial, their take on it. According to the ABC Ipsos poll, between March 8th and 9th, 36% said they trusted Donald Trump and 33% said they trusted Joe Biden. 30% said neither one had their trust. But when you look at some of the issues, when they ask about the job that President Biden has done on key issues and how they felt Trump performed as president on those issues, the former president, President Trump, polled higher than Biden on all issues except abortion and climate change. So, that tells you something, doesn't it? When you really start getting into the weeds on this thing, people admit that Trump has a better record than does Biden. Trump received 49% favorable rating on the economy compared to Biden's 37%. On inflation, 45% approved of Donald Trump compared to 31% for Biden. On crime, Trump 41, Biden 35. On immigration, the former president got 45% favorable compared to Biden's 29%. And the poll also found that President Biden lost support for his handling of the war between Israel and Hamas. Only 30% of respondents approve of the job he's done, compared to 41% back in October. That's going to be interesting. That's a tightrope for this president because Jewish voters have traditionally, educated Jewish voters have largely always supported the Democrat candidate. But there are many Jews in America who now feel that Donald Trump is not giving his all. They're very concerned about his call for ceasefire, etc. On the other side of the equation, there are Muslim Americans and Arab Americans who are very irritated with Biden because he feels like he's been too pro-Israel and not enough is being done to protect Hamas. And so he has to walk that tightrope. He can't win either way, really. But he's been trying to walk a tightrope, and we'll get into that a little bit later today. Couple of quick headlines here. From justthenews.com, evangelical group Faith and Freedom, led by Ralph Reed, to spend $62 million on a Trump get out the vote effort. And this is just a headline for you to laugh at. From thenationalpulse.com, 57% of Democrats want Congress to refuse certification if Trump wins. Oh, isn't that rich? 21 past the hour now, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Well, you know, Beacon Capital Management has created a free retirement savings calculator to help you make informed decisions for retirement. It's free and fast. It lasts less than 30 seconds from start to finish, and you'll get your results immediately. If you want to know more about it, just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. And maybe you need a deeper dive and you want, to find out if you're on the right track. Maybe you want to call this number, 615-488-9303, and have them go over what you're doing and see if you're headed in the right direction. Starts with that phone call. They will get some information from you, but you don't have anything to lose here except for the worry. Get started. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. The number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
A barricade situation right now in Nashville, a new budget proposal from President Biden, and an update on the ongoing crisis in Haiti. Those stories, 3:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Well, I do
Just
have,
for you.
I don't know what's going on here in my studio. As I mentioned to you last week, I still do. Right here on the wall, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 ladybugs. But today I've been killing little ants. I don't know where they're coming from. And Mac Morey's there in the newsroom, and there's Chris Webber, who's poking fun at me with the music today. No, I don't know what's going on. I've been killing ants, and I had one crawling up my arm. Where did that ant come from? I don't know. Of course, you have to understand that the studio, which is a fine studio, it's really, I mean, I'm very proud of my radio studio.
Yeah, very nice.
That I built here. It's a nice place, but it is above my garage.
That's true.
So you know, if ants are in the garage, then they're probably going to make their way up to the studio. So as long as we don't have termites, we can probably deal with the ants. That's my day. Ladybugs and ants.
Those ants sniffed out that little secret stash you had there.
I don't know. You know.
Oh, I wasn't. Well, I didn't strike that from the record.
Can you hit the little red button?
Dump button.
Too late. Oh. No, we don't talk about that.
Talk about what?
I don't know what you're talking about. But there's no sugar here. No, not in my studio. Anyway, nice weekend. Did you guys do anything spectacular? Anything good?
I didn't do nothing.
Well, I know Mac watched the Vols loss,
yeah,
I know.
Bright
but
and cheery.
It's okay. The SEC title's already
yeah,
secured.
you had it in the bag, so
no big deal.
But yeah, I was at a restaurant. I'll tell you, went out with our friends the Garretts, who are very active in the Heritage Foundation, which is they find old buildings and Williamson County and in Franklin in that area. They claim them, they rehab them, they make sure that they are protected, and they've opened up a new place there that you can learn about the history of Williamson County. And I went there with them. It's the Moore Morris History and Culture Center, and it's in Franklin. And I am telling you, it's great. I mean, you walk in and you sit down, and they take you, first of all, this used to be a tavern. And you go in, and they've got the tavern recreated in this room.
Ah.
And all of a sudden, I mean, you sit down in the chair, and the lights go dark, and it's like a Disney World ride. I mean, it's as if people are.
Whoa.
I mean, holograms are popping up, and pictures on the wall start to talk, and I mean, it's really something. It was really amazing. And so do that, and then you go. It's like 3 or 4 levels. You go up, and you just learn a lot about the people and the history.
Sounds cool.
I want to highly recommend it to you. It was really cool. The Moore Morris History and Culture Center there in downtown Franklin. Then we went out to have dinner, and that's where we were eating dinner and watching the Vols on the TV, and we were very sad.
It's not what you want, but it's okay. Again,
yeah, no, it's okay since they're going to the Big Ten. Yeah. So anyway, so that's that was it. Not a bad weekend. And then on Sunday, I literally just I sort of sat on my butt most of the day. Well, I cleaned up the studio. That's probably, I don't know. That's why I'm worried about where the ants are coming from, because I spent a lot of time cleaning up the studio. I live here 4 hours a day, and I don't have a maid.
Yeah.
So I figured, you know what? It's getting dusty in here, and it's getting dirty. I just need to come in here and just, Clorox and Windex and clean up everything. And I feel good about it, but then all of a sudden the ants have arrived. So I don't know.
It says a lot about you, Brian, that it was too dirty for the ants to inhabit.
And now
you
that
cleaned
it's
up a
cleaned,
bit, and
now
I said,
the ants
"Ooh."
are coming in. I think that's probably it. All right, time for the news. Here's Mac Morey with the news.
.30, I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 63 degrees, and it couldn't feel much better outside if it tried. Beautiful few days ahead this week. Weather forecast, traffic report coming up 5 minutes. This just in Tennessee, the Metro Nashville Police Department is working on a barricaded suspect situation in North Nashville. Police officers alongside MNPD's SWAT unit responded to 2516 Jones Avenue this afternoon. No information about the suspect has been made available yet. Stay with Super Talk 997 WTN for more information on that breaking story. The president's new budget proposal has a lot of spending Republicans rejected. Andy Field tells us the Biden administration is bringing that fight directly to the American people.
While many Republicans look to cut social spending and extend corporate and high earner tax cuts, President Biden says his budget's focused on the middle class.
It lowers health care costs, drug prices, and expands access to prescription drugs. It cuts taxes for families with children and American workers.
Office of Management and Budget Director Shalonda Young saying the spending plan also strengthens Social Security and Medicare.
And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken today on a trip to Jamaica to attend an emergency meeting with Caribbean leaders to discuss the ongoing crisis in Haiti. Here's State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller today.
We have had a level 4 travel alert for Haiti for more than 4 years now, making very clear to American citizens that, number one, they should not travel to Haiti, that it is not safe to travel to Haiti, and number two, that if they are in Haiti, they should leave as soon as it's safe for them to do so.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at United Structural Systems. With all the rain we've been having lately, you might want to look around your house and make sure things are okay. If you have standing water in your crawl space or wet basement walls or musty odors coming up through the floor joist, maybe you see some wood rot, cracks in basement floors, hardwood floors that are beginning to cup, all of these are signs that your house is trying to tell you something, that you've got a waterproofing problem. The folks at United Structural Systems, they're the real experts at it. Here's how will happen. They'll come out to your house, and they'll take a look at what's going on, and they'll give you their best solution. And if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done. There are over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. So listen, they guarantee their best at USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and you can learn more online at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com, or call this number, 615-488-7855. It is 37 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson in my ant-infested studio. I haven't seen one in the last few minutes, so maybe we're just a couple of adventurous ants.
The scout ants.
Yeah, well, that's probably right. The rest will be following.
Uh-huh.
Well, I killed them both, so they're not going to be able to get back.
Well, maybe that'll stop them.
Maybe I did the right thing. All right. Listen, a couple of things to share with you. We're going to be, looking at the things going on both in Biden's world and Trump world. And when you get to Biden, there's a lot of Biden incorporated in there as well. But let's start off with this. Biden said this. He said, we should not have gone into Ukraine. That's not exactly, we haven't gone into Ukraine. So he made a mistake. He did correct it, but another gaffe.
I sat with him, and I sat with the war cabinet. I said, look, don't make the mistake America made. America made a mistake. We went after bin Laden until we got him. But we shouldn't have gone into Ukraine.
What? He was talking about going after bin Laden, and he said, we shouldn't have gone into Ukraine. Then he sort of caught himself.
But we shouldn't have gone into Ukraine. We shouldn't have gone into the whole thing in Iraq and Afghanistan. It wasn't necessary. It just caused more problems in the race than it cured.
See, now contrast that to the guy we saw at the State of the Union. He's stuttering, he's stammering. He's saying we shouldn't have gone into Ukraine. By the way, he's sort of bragging about how he went after bin Laden. I want to remind you that Joe Biden, when the survey was taken, when Obama looked around the room and said, okay, here's what we know. Do we have enough evidence? Should we go after bin Laden? Everybody in the room said, yes, we should go after him, except Joe Biden. Joe Biden counseled that we should not have gone after bin Laden. So why he ever talks about anything having to do with the capture of bin Laden is a mystery to me. But again, another gaffe. They come every day when he's not apparently on Adderall. All right. Now he also, as you know, the other day, he apologized for using the word illegal to describe the man who's now in custody and accused of killing Laken Riley. He's actually been asked about it a couple of times. And I don't know that it quite measures up to an apology, but he did say he was wrong to have used that language. He didn't say, I'm sorry, which was what is required for an apology, but he did admit that in his mind, he had used the wrong language. Donald Trump was talking about that on the campaign trail this weekend.
Then just moments ago, I don't know if you heard because you've all been waiting online for 2 days, but just moments ago, this was just before coming up, they just told me prior to what I'm doing right now that Joe Biden went on television and apologized for calling Laken's murderer an illegal. He didn't want to call him illegal. He's apologized. He said he should have called him an undocumented, not an illegal, and he wanted to apologize. He wanted to apologize, and, well, they have a new name, too. They have a new name that's even worse. They have a new name. You know what the new name is? Neighbor. They want to call him neighbor. They want to call him another name. Did you ever hear the other one? Newcomer. A newcomer to our country. Are we going crazy or what? Is this country going crazy? How about that one? Newcomer. The newcomer. No, he was illegal. And I say he was an illegal alien. He was an illegal immigrant. He was an illegal migrant. And he shouldn't have been in our country, and he never would have been under the Trump policy.
Well, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, I have to agree 1,000%, and I couldn't have said it any stronger myself. I mean, what's really amazing about this whole thing is that you have Joe Biden, you know, fighting and fussing over, well, I may have used the inappropriate word to describe the man who killed Laken Riley. He's all concerned about the language, as Democrats are always concerned about the language, but he ought to be concerned about how that man got into the country to kill Laken Riley in the first place, or at least that's what police say. Allegedly killed, we have to always put that in there. Man hasn't been tried, but nonetheless, police say he's the guy. And why is he not interested in that? That's where he ought to be interested. He ought to apologize for that happening. Just maddening. Maddening. And one other thing, this Letitia James, as long as we're talking about Trump stuff, she went to a ceremony with firefighters, and they booed her pretty badly, and started chanting Trump, Trump, Trump. It was a promotion ceremony, and now apparently the boss at the FDNY, the Fire Department of New York, is threatening to hunt down the firefighters who jeered and heckled her while cheering for former President Donald Trump. James was invited to speak at the New York Fire Department promotion ceremony that honored Reverend Pamela Holmes, the second female chaplain and first black woman to hold the title. The event was held at a Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn campus, and she was greeted by a chorus of boos. I know you've seen it by now. But now apparently the FDNY boss is threatening to hunt down the firefighters who taunted him. According to the New York Post, the FDNY chief of department, John Hodges, fired off an email to other agency honchos warning a reckoning led by the department's Bureau of Investigation was coming over the chorus and boos and chants. And they said, listen, their point was, they said, well, you shouldn't do that in an official work ceremony. Well, freedom of speech. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad they did let her know exactly what they think about her. Voters right now are seeing a double standard in Trump charges for mishandling classified documents. And I bring this up because it seems to me that really everything that they have tried to throw at Donald Trump is sort of backfiring in some way. As you know, Special Counsel Robert Hur found that President Joe Biden for decades broke laws by hoarding classified records, but refused to bring charges against him. This according to Tip Insights. Yet former President Donald Trump faces charges for keeping classified items at his Mar-a-Lago home. The Tip poll asked voters, is this a double standard? And their answer was yes. Of those who responded, the first two entities, they were asked the question, were they following the Hur investigation very closely, somewhat closely, not very closely, not closely at all, and not sure? And those who said they were watching very closely or somewhat closely were counted, 568 people, or about roughly 40% of those who took the poll. And then they broke them in. If you said, yes, you're following it, they asked some questions. The first one is this. Special Counsel Robert Hur concluded that no charges should be brought against President Biden for mishandling classified documents, citing his well-meaning nature and failing memory. Considering these factors, do you agree or disagree that Hur's decision not to bring charges against President Biden was lenient? Among those who said they were paying close attention to the story, 57% said they agreed strongly with that statement, and 36% said somewhat agree with that statement, that Biden received lenient treatment. And here's where it gets interesting. Among Democrats, 69% call Biden's treatment lenient. 69% of Democrats said, oh, yeah, he got off the hook there. Only 50% of Republicans agreed. 46% disagreed. Independents broke it this way. Independents thought it was 53% thought it was too lenient. 39% agreed with the statement. And then they went on for the second question. And it was a good one, too, here. I get some of this stuff. Follow-up question. When comparing the handling of classified document cases, the Justice Department has been followed by three possible responses. More lenient toward President Biden than to President Trump. More lenient toward President Trump than to President Biden, not sure. This is where the majority widened on the second question. 62% answered that the DOJ had been more lenient with Biden than with Trump. Trump was treated with more leniency. Across all parties, though, there was either a plurality or outright majority saying that the DOJ has played favorites. That's how American people are reacting to this. Hunter Biden? Let's get an update on Biden Incorporated. This is a weird one. Hunter Biden indicated to Congress that he never visited the Delaware repair shop where his laptop was left. Okay. Mr. Biden, in closed-door testimony, said he didn't remember dropping off the laptop at the Mac shop and cast doubt on the idea. He said he would have taken his computer to either the Apple store, which is 3 blocks from his office in Georgetown, or the store at the Christiana Mall in Newark. And said, I was going to do it. I would have gone to the Apple store. Although he admitted to some damning details about his father dropping in business meetings during his deposition, confirming some elements of the Republicans' impeachment inquiry against President Biden, he was curiously insistent about casting doubt on the laptop. Have you seen that laptop? He asked Representative Harriet Hageman, a Wyoming Republican who asked about the computer during the February 28th congressional interview. Does anyone know the existence of an actual laptop? The striking performance behind closed doors left lawmakers miffed at what Mr. Biden was trying to do. No serious person doubts the existence of the Hunter Biden laptop, and nobody disputes the material on it is authentic. Mr. Biden was testifying as part of the House impeachment inquiry into his father. The theory behind the investigation is that Mr. Biden used his father's name and position, of course, to procure business deals with foreign firms, often intertwined with foreign governments. Republicans are investigating how much Mr. Biden knew of and assisted and potentially profited from his son's dealings. That's one of the best summaries of how complex this case is. That's a great summary of what it was. As I understand it, the FBI has the laptop. But isn't it interesting that Biden says he doesn't remember taking it to this place? Well, I mean, he was strung out on crack, who knows? But he raised questions about it in his deposition. And then there's this from Just the News. Prosecutors called Hunter Biden a conspiracy theorist who cheated on taxes after sobriety. A new federal court filing says the first son's claims of political persecution resembles a house of cards, and that Biden's lawyers repeatedly offer non-realities as facts to the court. Federal prosecutors who charge Hunter Biden with tax evasion are mounting their strongest counterattack yet on the president's son and his criticism of the case, suggesting that he is engaged in conspiracy theories in court and clearly cheated on taxes even after achieving sobriety. The federal court filing that special counsel David Weiss and his top deputy Leo Wise, it's Weiss and Wise, filed late Friday make it clear they don't intend to yield to Hunter Biden or his lawyers on the narrative in the court public opinion or their version of facts in a case that threatened to send the first son to prison for as many as 17 years if convicted. In recent weeks, Biden's defense team has suggested that Weiss' prosecution was prompted by pressure from congressional Republicans and ex-President Trump, and on that basis filed a series of motions to dismiss the charges. Yeah, good luck with that. The case follows a nearly 6-year record of the Justice Department changing in its charging decisions and upping the ante on Mr. Biden in direct response to political pressure and its own self-interests. The defense has also suggested the charges in a related impeachment inquiry in Congress seek to punish him for a time when Hunter Biden was under the throes of drug addiction. The prosecutors are going to push back on that nonsense, thank goodness. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
An armed and dangerous barricade situation ended in Nashville. An update on the Israel-Hamas war. Multiple dogs rescued and coming to Music City. And a famous rock band on their way to Bridgestone this summer. Those stories and more. 4 o'clock, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
All right, it's 57 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock. Let's look at the markets. Mixed boards today. Dow Jones Industrials were up 46. S&P was down 5, and the NASDAQ was down about almost 66. So we mixed boards, red and green all over the place. What's going on here? I don't know. But one thing that I know is the market is looking at some inflation news that is not particularly thrilling them. Let's check in with Ty Draper over at Beacon Capital Management for more on that. Hey, Ty.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, long-term inflation expectations continue to rise, which could spell possible trouble for the Fed. Some long-term rate indicators are well ahead of what the Fed's 2% goal is, which could lead to higher interest rates for longer. Fed's expected to hold rates steady when it meets next week, with the first rate cut possibly happening in June of this year. That's not good for potential home buyers, with 30-year mortgage rates still in the high 6s to low 7s. Silver lining in the report saw declines in recent rates. Home prices were flat, and gasoline prices rose ever so slightly in January. So this report was kind of a mixed bag, which did lead to rent costs dropping by about 6.1%.
All right. Thank you very much, Ty. Listen, find out about all the things that Ty Draper and all the good people over at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. All right, I got a question for you. Are you happy with your weight? I was decidedly not happy with mine. I started regaining a lot of weight that I lost last year, and I decided to do something about it. Now, though I have never taken on a weight loss client before, I am impressed with the program that Jamie and Carly at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon developed for me. You see, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took a look at my history and my lifestyle and suggested an approach that is starting to show some real results. Amazingly, I'm not hungry, which is a real huge thing. Beyond that, Cabana Wife and I are undergoing peptide therapy at Restoration Wellness Med Spa and are thrilled with the results. We both have noticed greater mental clarity and increased energy. So whether your goal is to lose weight or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness Med Spa has a solution for you. Maybe it's time for you to join more than 1,000 patients who have already seen life-changing results. Here's the number, 615-470-8124. Learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 63 degrees, a sunny, beautiful day in Nashville. Traffic, complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. This just in Tennessee, police just arrested a man who was wanted on several warrants. The man was armed and had barricaded himself in a home in North Nashville at 2516 Jones Avenue this afternoon. Neighbors say officials were using a megaphone to talk to the suspect and that a canine found the suspect and is now in custody. They said they also heard a flashbang administered. And the Biden administration continues to pressure the Israeli government to scale back or end its war in Gaza. Andy Field tells us that's at odds with what Israeli Prime Minister is saying.
Over the weekend, President Biden said an Israeli invasion of Gaza's southern city of Rafah would be a red line for the U.S. unless Israel has a plan to
take care of the safety and security needs of the more than 1 million civilians who are sheltering there. And we've seen no such plan.
Spokesperson Olivia Dalton, members of the president's own party pressuring him to pull support from Israel if the war continues to kill scores of Palestinian civilians.
Animals being rescued to Tennessee. Channel 4 says that Animal Rescue Corps will bring 85 of the 214 dogs seized from a North Carolina puppy mill to Middle Tennessee at its headquarters in Gallatin. It was mostly puppies and schnauzers that were removed from terrible conditions. They were allegedly subjected to high levels of ammonia, resulting in dehydration, malnutrition, parasites, untreated injuries, illnesses, severe matting, skin conditions, and other life-threatening medical conditions consistent with chronic neglect. The remains of several dogs were also found at that site. And some entertainment news. Rock band Weezer stopping in Nashville this year as part of their Voyage to the Blue Planet anniversary tour. It's the 30th anniversary now. They'll stop at Bridgestone Arena on Tuesday, September 17th. They'll be joined by the Flaming Lips and Dinosaur Jr. Pre-sale tickets start Wednesday at noon. General on-sale tickets start March 15th at 10 a.m. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon. Time for hour number 2 of The Drive. I'm Brian Wilson in for the next 3 hours as we bring you news and information you can use until 7 o'clock. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about. Glad that you're with us on this beautiful Monday, March 11th. I'm telling you, it's hard to get the dogs back into the house today. They didn't want to come back in.
Understandable, yeah.
It's beautiful, yeah. We should take the show out there. Well, let's head to the swamp, why don't we? I think maybe I'll try that. Just do the show out on the porch someday. I'm ready. I'm ready to try that. To the swamp we go. I'm so glad to see this story. It's been driving me crazy that it hasn't gotten more coverage or more attention, because I think this is a huge story, one of the most underreported stories that I've seen in a long, long time. House Republicans now, according to justthenews.com, are demanding answers from the Biden administration after newly surfaced documents show that 320,000 illegal immigrants from Latin America were flown into cities across the United States amid already record-high numbers of migrant encounters at the southern border. Understand, get this now, the Biden administration had a problem. They saw the pictures down the border, and they hated the pictures at the border because it just reinforced that the border was out of control, and it was hurting Biden politically as he wants to run for re-election, become the number one issue, by the way, among voters. And so in order to keep the numbers down at the border, they just would go to like these countries where folks had applied through their little Border Patrol app, and they would just put them on a plane and fly them directly to some city in the United States. So there were, I think, a total of 46 different cities that they were flown to. We don't know which ones because the Biden administration has that information but won't share it. Yeah, they just sent them all over the country. 320,000. Now, so much criticism has been given to the state of Texas and Governor Abbott for his Operation Lone Star program. All told, there's only 105,000 immigrants, illegal migrants, who came to this country that were bused to major cities by the state of Texas. 105,000. Compare that to the 320,000 that the Biden administration was flying directly into cities all across the nation. Again, which ones we don't know. But if they sent them to New York, if they sent them to Chicago and sent them to L.A., it would seem that the Biden administration is more responsible for the problems that those sanctuary cities are experiencing than was the state of Texas. But again, nobody's reporting about this. Now, nearly 24 House Republicans have sent a letter to Customs and Border Protection Acting Commissioner Troy Miller after the Center for Immigration Studies obtained information through a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit that showed that, well, they say here, 43 U.S. airports received 320,000 illegal migrants in 2023 alone. The lawmakers are asking the acting commissioner to answer questions about the program, such as which cities the illegal immigrants are being flown into, what dates the flights occurred, and how much the flights cost. The Republicans also expressed concern that there could be additional illegal immigrants on the terrorist watch list who could be flown into cities across the United States through the federal program. That's right. The number of migrants, this is from justthenews.com, flown into the U.S. by the government is significantly larger than those transported to major cities by Texas GOP Governor Greg Abbott, who has been blamed for an influx of migrants across the nation due to his Operation Lone Star. Texas officials have transported more than 105,000 migrants throughout the U.S. by Texas officials, the governor's office said Friday. 105,000 by Abbott, 320,000 directly flown into the country, I assuming at taxpayer expense. Oh, my God. How is this not like the biggest story in the country right now? And the Biden administration, and, they need to tell us where they took these folks. I don't think that should be information that's protected. Basically, the Center for Immigration Studies, the CIS, got this from a FOIA request, and a lot of it was redacted. But they couldn't redact everything, and it's pretty astonishing. But they did redact which airports they were flown to. Could be right here in Nashville, for all we know. This one, remember on January 6th, remember the January 6th committee of Democrats? This was a committee solely made up of Democrats. They wouldn't even let Republicans on. That was looking into what happened on January 6th and how they came up in saying that somehow, the events were somehow Trump's fault, and that it was Trump's fault that this thing spiraled out of control. Well, when the Republicans took over, they found that a lot of the files from that committee had been destroyed or were, in a big hard drive that was deleted, or I guess it wasn't deleted, but it had such a high level of encryption that they couldn't get in and get access to those documents. But they are beginning to find a few things. A previously hidden transcript of an interview conducted by a U.S. House of Representatives panel that investigated the January 6th breach of the U.S. Capitol has been revealed, undermining one big committee claim. Anthony Ornato, who was the White House Deputy Chief of Staff during the breach, told the committee he overheard Mark Meadows, who was then the Chief of Staff to Trump, on the phone with Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser, and according to the transcript, Mr. Meadows wanted to ensure Ms. Bowser had everything she needed. Mr. Meadows wanted to know if she needed any more guardsmen. Mr. Ornato testified, "I remember the number 10,000 coming up. The president wants to make sure you have enough. He's willing to ask for 10,000. I remember that number now that you said it. It reminded me of it." He was speaking, of course, to the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attacks, which was not really a committee of Congress. It was a committee of Democrats. The committee said in its final report it found no evidence supporting the idea that former President Donald Trump ordered 10,000 troops to be ready for January 6th. But obviously, Ornato's testimony is in contradiction of that. And by the way, Meadows has been very firm on this. He said we offered 10,000, that it was a direct order from the president. Make sure Muriel Bowser has what she needs. We'll give her as many as 10,000 troops to guard the Capitol. Now, apparently, this got shot down by Democrats, and Nancy Pelosi particularly, when she was told that we could have more guardsmen, she said, reportedly, I don't like the optics of that. Well, if there had been 10,000 guardsmen surrounding the Capitol, I think we would have been in a lot better shape, and there wouldn't have been a January 6th as we know it. Again, President Trump, according to Mr. Miller, Christopher Miller, said you're going to need 10,000 people. Mr. Miller told the Select Committee he never knew of any plans of that nature. There was no direct order from the president. But again, apparently in the conversation between Mark Meadows and Muriel Bowser, the number 10,000 was mentioned. So there you have that. Let's see. Here's this. I'll finish up with that. White House has unveiled a $7.3 trillion tax and spend budget for 2025. The budget includes $7.3 trillion in spending, $5.5 trillion in tax revenue, bringing the deficit for 2025 to nearly $1.8 trillion just for 1 year. The proposals for new federal spending and taxes will not become law this year, given Republican control of the House of Representatives, but they provide a sense of what initiative President Joe Biden would pursue if he wins a second term. See, presidents, put forward budget proposals, but really, honestly, I don't know why they bother. I mean, some presidents haven't even bothered to send up a budget proposal because it's all notional. It's like, okay, this is what in a perfect world, this is where I would like to be with the budget, and you send it up. And then if you have opposition, unless you have both the houses of the Congress, the House and the Senate, it's really probably not going anywhere. It's not going to be the template that eventually emerges. It's just sort of a notional sort of document which outlines what the president in a perfect world would like to see. So $7.3 trillion in tax and spend budget. He's not going to get $7.3 trillion. And I'm hoping that the House of Representatives, and I think they will, are going to hold the ground here. This is why we have the House of Representatives, and this is why it's good for us to have the House, because having the House means that we can stop this nonsense. So again, it's out, and it would increase taxes on the most wealthy, and it's a document that doesn't mean much, but it does tell you a little bit about their priorities. And then there's this, Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee put forth a proposal to bar illegal immigrants from being counted in the national census, warning that their numbers go toward informing the apportionment of the House and the Electoral College. So soon after President Joe Biden took office in 2021, he signed an executive order requiring the Census Bureau to determine the population of each state in the United States without regard to whether residents have lawful immigration status. That's wrong. The amendment, which would have been added to the Equal Representation Act that Senator Hagerty proposed last month, would require the Census Bureau to include a citizenship question in any future census. Anyone who isn't a U.S. citizen, including people with temporary visas and green cards, would then be excluded from the ballot for congressional districts and electoral college apportionment. Remember, census data is collected every 10 years. The proposal was attached to the $460 billion government spending package passed on Sunday. So Hagerty wanted to strip the counting of illegal immigrants from the census, and the measure was shot down 45-51. 51 Democrats, all Democrats in unison, voted against it. And here's what Senator Hagerty had to say about that. Democrats' unanimous opposition to this common sense measure confirms they're using illegal aliens and sanctuary cities to increase their political power. With this vote, Senate Democrats chose to trample on the rights of each American voice. I will continue to fight and press this issue in the Senate, Senator Hagerty added. And I think he's right about this. It is true that if you're counting everybody, including people who are not in this country illegally, then, somehow this effort to send a lot of people to sanctuary cities, quite frankly, would be really harmful. It would be very harmful to the counting in the because it would give them more electoral power, give them more congressional districts, etc. So we may have shot ourselves in the foot with that. But then get back to that first story that I told you about, where they're flying them into the country directly. One wonders if they made decisions to send them to cities that would help them the most politically. Wouldn't that be something if we could figure that out? Maybe that's why they don't want us to see where they flew those folks into. Man, I'll tell you what, you got to watch that swamp. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. The Brass Lanterns and Legend Restaurants are celebrating 35 years in Middle Tennessee this year, and they want me to talk a little bit about some of the daily specials that they have got going right now. On Mondays, it's fresh breaded chicken fingers with fries and coleslaw, $8.99. Tuesday, they're featuring slow-cooked prime rib with a side for $18.99. Wednesday is the 6-ounce choice sirloin with a side for only $8.99. I mean, these are good prices. Hamburger steak is on Thursday for $8.99. And on Sundays, they feature 3 pasta dinners for $9.99. Remember, for over 35 years, the Brass Lantern and Legends restaurants have given you authentic, made-from-scratch, delicious recipes at affordable prices. That's what they're all about. Good food at a great price. They hope that you'll enjoy their good food and service. And don't forget the daily lunch specials, which start at $6.99. Also, don't forget to pick up some of those delicious Johnny Fleeman products at your local grocery store. You're going to enjoy your next visit to the Brass Lantern or Legends restaurant nearest you.
A barricade situation at a North Nashville home ending with a suspect in custody. We've got more information now on that ongoing story and some money news. 4:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
24 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on a beautiful Monday, March 11th. Man, just gorgeous outside. Bulldogs were sunning themselves around the pool. They were loving life this morning until they got into Cabana Wife's flower beds. She hasn't seen this yet.
Uh-oh.
It's not going to go well when she comes home and sees what a mess they made.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Yikes.
Naughty, naughty pups.
Well, see, at least it won't have her. It will distract her from knowing that she now knows about the cookies. Thanks to Chris.
I liked your response.
Well, I keep a few little Nilla wafers. I mean, it's the most inoffensive of all cookies.
What is that? No, what? How did you put it? You didn't say inoffensive. What did you say?
I said the least offensive.
Was that what it is? Yeah, the least offensive cookie.
That's right. It's the least offensive cookie. Up! There's another ant. Got it.
You were talking about cookies. They heard
I know. Maybe I should check that drawer. That may be where they're coming. That's the third ant I've seen here. I don't know where they're coming from. All right. I was going to talk about some important stuff here. Let's get to it. Remember, more fallout from the State of the Union address. After the State of the Union address, as the president is lollygagging his way out to the door, he's talking to people and was caught on a hot mic saying that he was going to have a come to Jesus meeting with Bibi Netanyahu. And he was asked about that in an interview over the weekend.
You were caught on a hot mic after your State of the Union address talking to Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Senator Michael Bennet saying, quote, I told him, Bibi, and don't repeat this, but you and I are going to have a come to Jesus meeting. What do you mean by that?
What I meant was, it's an expression used in the southern part of my state, meaning a serious meeting. And it was, I've known Bibi for 50 years, and he knew what I meant by it.
Well, hold on a minute. First of all, it was an expression that was used in the southern part of Delaware. I don't think that's a common statement in Delaware. Maybe in the deep South, maybe in South Alabama, you hear somebody say, we're going to have that old boy come to a Meet Jesus meeting. Come to Meet Jesus meeting. I've heard that all my life, but it's not something that he heard in South Delaware. I can promise you that. But the second thing is that last thing he said, Bibi knows what I was meaning.
And it was, I've known Bibi for 50 years, and he knew what I meant by it.
Well, Bibi says he doesn't know what that means.
You got to keep pushing on the humanitarian stuff and all this shit. So I told him, Bibi, show me this.
There it is, the actual soundbite. It's hard to understand.
So what does that mean to you, a come to Jesus meeting?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the term, even though Jesus wasn't born that far away from here. I can tell you that if it means having a heart-to-heart conversation, we've had that plenty of times over the 40 years that I've known Joe Biden, and over the 12 or 13 conversations that we've had since the beginning of the war. But ultimately, you know, I'm the Prime Minister of Israel. I'm responsible for the security and future of the Jewish state, and I'm supported in my policies. That's important to understand. The overwhelming majority of Israelis support my policies, that we have to eradicate Hamas as a terrorist and governing organization, that we have to get our hostages back, and that we have to make sure that Gaza doesn't form a threat to us anymore.
Well, he's right about that. He's got to look out for the best interests of Israel. The president wants it to stop because it's hurting him politically. That's what it's all about. But, I mean, come on. We all saw what happened in the invasion, the horrific things that happened during the invasion into Israel. They started it, and Israel's going to finish it. And Bibi says, we will not take our foot off the gas.
Well, I'm telling you that we're not getting off the gas. I'm telling you that we have to take care of Israel's security and our future, and that requires eliminating the terrorist army. That's a prerequisite for victory. That victory is important not only for us, it's important for the civilized world as we're fighting these barbarians. And let me tell you something. You know, I've seen these recent polls where 82% of Americans support Israel in its battle against Hamas. 82%. That's been constant over the last 5 months.
There, that is true. That's absolutely true. Americans, by and large, support what is happening in Israel, and that's why this is such a dicey issue for the current president of the United States, Joe Biden. He has to worry. Number one, on one hand, if he goes too far in support of Hamas and protecting them and trying to get a ceasefire, he irritates the Jewish voters in America. If he leans too far toward Israel, well, there are Arab American voters in Michigan that he's got to have to win the Electoral College numbers that he needs for re-election. He's walking a tightrope, and it's really a no-win situation for him. But it would seem to me I would go with 82% of the Americans. In the long haul, that's probably the thing he should do. But he's not doing the thing he should do. He's doing the thing that is most politically expedient to him. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
Thirty minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 63 degrees and a sunny spring day in Nashville. Forecast traffic report just ahead 5 minutes. Right now in the Volunteer State, a barricaded situation now over and ending with that suspect in custody. Channel 4 Sharon Dankwa with more.
They say there were dozens of Metro Police cars and even the SWAT team. Now, they showed up here looking for a man, as you mentioned, that had multiple warrants out for his arrest. Now, Metro Police say when they got here, the man barricaded himself in some sort of either a car or a home. And they say what actually happened was a canine officer ended up getting the man, and they ended up using, also neighbors in the area say they heard flashbangs. So they got the man, they put him in a ambulance. I know he was also arrested as well, but police say now the neighborhood is safe, the situation is clear, and neighbors in the area should not have any worry.
Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger.
Stocks closed mixed ahead of an important report on inflation. The Dow rose 47 points while the Nasdaq fell 66 and the S&P closed down 6. Investors are acting cautiously as they await Tuesday's Consumer Price Index, which measures what we pay for almost everything month to month and year over year. It'll be followed by the Producer Price Index on Thursday, which measures prices on the wholesale level before they reach consumers. Choice Hotels is ending its $8 billion hostile takeover bid for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, saying it wouldn't be able to get enough Wyndham shareholders to embrace the deal. Choice runs about 7,500 hotels, including Howard Johnson, Super 8, and Travelodge brands. Wyndham runs Days Inn, La Quinta, Ramada, and a number of other brands. Reddit's ready to go public, saying in its regulatory filing its IPO will be priced between $31 and $34 a share.
And the Titans staying active today. They have just signed cornerback Chidobe Awuzie from the Cincinnati Bengals on a 3-year deal. That was a position of need. They did not have a corner of note to lead that secondary, and now they do for the next 3 years. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Busy Bee. Busy Bee, when you need heat or cold AC, the number you call is 775-775-7833. They'll buzz right over to your house and get to working on it. get you up and running. You need to keep these things, maintained. Good, annual maintenance is the way you avoid long-term problems and can extend the life of your systems. And that's what being a member of the Beehive Club is all about. Starts at $99, and what you get then is 3 maintenance services, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at your plumbing systems. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling 775-7833 online at busybeehvac.com. That was the president over the weekend. Some called that an apology when he said, well, I didn't mean to say illegal. I should have said undocumented. Then he tried to turn it on Trump somehow. He was also asked about it as going to the chopper one day.
Well, I don't, technically not supposed to be here.
But isn't it interesting that so much of it was focused on getting the language right with a guy who is now an accused killer, rather than worrying about the family of Lake and Riley? Joining us now on the Newsmaker Hotline to talk about this and a lot of other stuff happening at the Swamp is Senator Marsha Blackburn. She's the senior senator in the state of Tennessee. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. Those words from Joe Biden really talk about, where the Democrats are focused on getting the language right, rather than actually focusing on the thing that they should be focusing on, which is, an apology to the family of Laken Riley and to do something about the border so it doesn't happen more often.
They should be focused on the fact that the number one issue in this country is border security. And just for the record, Brian, the statutory term of reference for people who illegally enter this country is illegal alien.
Yes.
And this killer of Laken Riley was an illegal alien who was documented because he had been granted parolee status by the Biden administration. Now, if you're granted parolee status, that means that you get benefits, you get a work permit, and that's what he had. And Joe Biden has paroled more people than just about every president in the past 3 decades combined. He paroled 800,000 in 2022. He paroled 1.2 million in 23. On average, Barack Obama paroled 5,600 people a year, and Donald Trump paroled about 5,600. Parolee status is very different from asylum, and this guy from Venezuela was given and granted parolee status. He had no way of claiming asylum, and they gave him this status. He was caught in New York endangering a child. He was caught in Athens, and by the way, he was delivering food. He had a job down there, and the system failed Laken Riley. That is what Joe Biden needs to be talking about.
Yeah, it's always the Democrats in controlling the language so they can control the narrative. And look, you're absolutely 1,000% right. There's another story that's been floating around out there for some time now, a couple of days, that I really am surprised is not getting more attention. And I understand that they're trying to get more information on it, Republicans are, but it has to do with this report came out of the Center for Immigration Studies that says that 320,000 immigrants were flown directly from the country of origin to the United States so they could circumvent and not be counted in the numbers of people coming through the border. And they went to some 46 different cities in the United States, and they won't tell us. The government won't tell us where those cities are. I mean, have you heard about this story? And what can you tell me about this?
We're trying to find out and get some details on this. It appears that they were flown to the border, or one of the recounts of this, I should say. They're flown from other countries to the border and then come across the border, and then they're flown again a second time. These people are illegally entering the country. But, Brian, the thing that I continue to say, this administration is determined to keep trying to make illegal legal. They're trying to normalize lawlessness. This is not good for us. We are a nation of laws. We abide by the rule of law. We do not want to normalize lawlessness. We do not want to make illegal legal. And that is what they spend half of the day, every single day doing.
All right. The other thing that's going on in the swamp today is that, they're looking over the president's proposed 25 budget. He sends it up, and there's a lot of spending and a lot of taxation in this budget, as best we can tell at first glance. What's your take on it?
Well, $7.3 trillion, the biggest ever. This is on top of the $9 trillion that he has spent in the last 3 years. He is trying to put this mandatory spending on steroids. He's trying to put his climate agenda on steroids. He wants to spend $11 billion to put money into his climate agenda, his EPA, $3 billion for the Green Climate Fund. No. He's trying to prioritize climate change, And he's doing this when prices at the grocery store are up over 25%. You've got the price at the pump up about 33%. You have people talking about the impact of inflation. When I'm across Tennessee, in Tennessee counties, where I'm in every county every year, and we also do telephone town halls, and people are talking about the border, they're talking about inflation, because they're living with both of those issues in their lives every single day.
And there's no chance that this budget survives. I mean, these are generally notional documents, aren't they?
Yeah. It's those are pie in the sky, wishful thinking documents. They're dead on arrival, but it shows you where this administration would go if they had their way. And I think that's the instructive thing of this, is see, they would just keep printing money. They don't have any desire to cut or freeze anything. And of course, if you cut a penny out of a dollar, you do my 1%, 2%, or 5% across the board spending cuts. If you take that penny out of a dollar or that nickel out of a dollar, you begin to rack up some savings. If you were to freeze hiring, every year we have about 80,000 federal employees that retire. And Lord knows we've got more employees than we need. We've got people that are working part-time, they're working remote, and they're working from the bubble bath and then putting the videos on social media. And the American people are tired of footing the bill for such foolishness. Hardworking taxpayers don't need to be having to pay for that.
Well, I know, and you and I, if we ended up someday, well, we're going to have to tighten our belts around the house here. We could find 5 or 10% to cut out of our budgets. It's always amazed me that the federal government can't find 5 or 10%. What a big difference that would make if just across the board, every agency was required to find 5 or 10% in cuts. But they never seem to look at it that way. Businesses do a thing called zero-based budgeting, where they start at zero and make you justify every dollar you're spending to make sure that you're not overspending in some areas. But
That's right.
We can never get that in the federal government for some reason.
And I have proposed that for years. And when I was in the House and on the Budget Committee, we actually passed that concept out. It died in the Senate. But zero-based budgeting, and there are two things you could do. Number one is a 2-year budget, so that once every Congress you did the budget. And the second is zero-based budgeting. Now, if you did that zero-based budgeting instead of baseline budgeting, and you started at zero with a clean legal pad and a number 2 Sharpie pencil with a good eraser, you could begin to get somewhere. In addition to saying, okay, when you do this from zero, you're going to have a 1%, 2%, 5% cut. Or as you do this, we are freezing hiring. We're freezing salaries. So don't look for any plus-ups in there, because you're not going to get them. And then you would put some constraints in place. And you're so right, Brian. That is what is missing in the federal budget process. There are no constraints, because they say, well, we had $100 last year. We're asking for $115 this next year. And then when they only get $105, they say, oh, you cut us. Well, no, you didn't get cut. You got more. But the thing is, if they had to go back to zero, not to the baseline, but to zero, then they would have to justify every single penny that they got.
The minibus that passed the other day, it was a lot of money that was spent just to keep the government operating, but it was all porked up. It was all full of lard. And I know that, Republicans were against the idea. But, I mean, some of this money went to Republicans. I mean, don't we have to look at our own selves sometimes I mean, I'm not blaming you personally, but I mean, I know that there were Republicans who got things in that spending package that really, you would have to qualify as perhaps pork.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is why I was a no vote on all of this. This was to be a minibus that had been decided, but by the time it gets to us, it has 6,600 earmarks
Golly.
to the tune of right at $13 billion of additional spending. And people in Tennessee do not want to pay for a maintenance trust fund for Presidio Park that is outside of Nancy Pelosi's front door. That is not our job. They do not need $100 million from the federal government to keep Presidio Park looking pretty. And we need roads, we need bridges. That money needs to be going for things that have a federal nexus and not some, let's go study this fish or that blossom or Nancy Pelosi's park. This is absurd, some of the things that get put into that budget.
Well, Senator, it's always a pleasure to have you on the program, as always. Thank you for joining us here on The Drive.
You got it. Take care.
All right, 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Imagine what you could do, how you would feel if you or someone you love had no pain. Well, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley can help you find that pain-free life because getting better and feeling healthy is important to both of them. They are freezing costs at 2023 levels. That's right. Half off spinal decompression treatment, half off the KT knee machine, and new patients can get a full consultation for just $23. They will review an advanced report of findings with you. They'll go over any MRIs or x-rays that you may have brought in. They're actually good at finding things that other people have missed. And if you're holding this 2023 pricing, that's just amazing. For $23, new patients, you get an exam, consultation, x-rays included if needed. Again, Dr. Mitchell will go over your condition, put a game plan together, get you feeling better quick. So call Dr. Ashley and Dr. Mitchell and set up your consultation today, 615-246-5009. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Call them today or give them a look at their website, painisbad.com.
President Biden trying to pass a bipartisan immigration bill, a shooting in Antioch, measles in Chicago, and sexual assault at a park here in the Volunteer State. That suspect at large. Those stories coming up 5 o'clock right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
To our listeners of trying to watch us on Super Talk TV, we are experiencing a little problem on our Facebook feed. The others are working just fine, so we apologize for that. We think it is a Facebook issue, and we're sorry, but we'll try to work through that issue for you. But you can watch on the other platforms, all the social media platforms. They all work. It is now 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Well, you know how much I love DT McCall's. I've been buying stuff from them since I came to town. In fact, you walk around my house, I can show you a lot of stuff that I bought at DT McCall's, and I have yet to be anything but completely satisfied. They got a huge sale coming up. Their spring savings sale on the 22nd of March. So mark that down on your calendar and get ready. If you're looking for appliances, if you're looking for furniture, if you're looking for a bedroom suite, if you're looking for a mower, now is the time, to get busy and get down to DT McCall's and save some big money. They've been around for more than 100 years. They treat you right. They don't play games. When they give you a price, it's an honest price. It's a price that means that they're not going to jack you up for other additional charges like the delivery and the setup and the haul away and all that. And also, whenever possible, they buy and sell products made in Middle Tennessee. Learn all about their 5 convenient locations: Carthage, Lafayette, Lebanon, Cookeville, Franklin. Go to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. That sun flying high, 63 degrees on Music Row. Traffic, complete weather forecast coming to you in 5 minutes. Many big U.S. cities feeling the southern border crisis with those states shipping migrants north. Andy Field tells us the president is blaming Republicans for not voting for a bipartisan solution.
President Biden telling the National League of Cities conference in D.C. they're feeling the migrant-immigrant crisis because House Republicans are blocking a bill that would help.
Tell your members in Congress to show up, show a little spine, and pass the bipartisan border security bill.
Many House and Senate Republicans rejected the bipartisan border bill after candidate Donald Trump told them it would help President Biden's reelection.
Right now in Tennessee, a man is dead after shooting at 2 women and 2 children in Antioch. Police say it was the estranged boyfriend of a 31-year-old woman. He opened fire at her along with a 21-year-old woman, a 7-year-old boy, and a 7-month-old boy. That 7-month-old was not hit. The others were. The 2 women sustained critical injuries while the 7-year-old had non-critical injuries. The man then took his own life after that shooting. He has now been identified as 25-year-old Emilio Ramirez Lopez. We don't know yet if that suspect was in the country legally. The Department of Children's Services is helping take care of that baby. 10 passengers and 3 crew members on the LATAM Airlines Boeing 787 Dreamliner went to hospitals when the plane landed in Auckland today after a mysterious incident on board. Alex Stone.
As the Dreamliner was flying from Sydney to Auckland, the plane suddenly dropped, apparently not from turbulence. Chilean-based LATAM Airlines calls it a technical event. Passengers say one of the pilots told them gauges went blank in the cockpit and they couldn't fly the plane momentarily. FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker.
We will certainly work with the Australian authorities or the New Zealand authorities to investigate that, and the Chilean authorities. It's obviously not a U.S. Flight, but it is in the 787. So we will certainly follow that closely.
50 people injured from that incident. The CDC has dispatched a team to Chicago where 2 children living at a migrant shelter have been diagnosed with measles. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention urged isolation lockdowns for everyone at the Pilsen migrant shelter. But as Diane Patthew reports, not everyone listened.
Although warnings were put in place, some residents have left the shelter. This morning, Chicago public school officials advised families at the shelter to keep their school-aged children out of school today as a precaution, as experts continue to stress vaccinations. We're told 13% of the people living in the shelter do not have proof of vaccination.
Another crime story here in Tennessee. Metro Police searching for a man who allegedly sexually assaulted a 15-year-old boy at Seven Oaks Park on Thursday. The boy said he was at the park before a strange man approached him and pulled him into the woods. The suspect, described as a man in his 50s with crooked teeth and freckles. The man left the park in a 2000s model Honda Civic sedan and drove towards Night Drive. Officers are searching throughout the city for his vehicle. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Are you enjoying all this extra daylight we got going on? I mean, I don't like monkeying around with the clock, but I sure do like having that extra evening daylight. Cabana wife says she's going to come home and mow this evening. Part of the she has a little area she likes to mow.
Have a good day for it.
Yeah, good day for it. Grogu's garden. Except I forgot to get the mower out. She's going to yell at me. I forgot to do that. I'm sorry, honey. But you can get stuff done. It's nice, to have a little daylight when you get done at the end of your day.
Well, not at the end of my day, but nevertheless.
I know. And I want you to just know that we are consummate broadcast professionals here at Super Talk 99.7.
Okay.
And that we can power through the all kinds of adversity to bring you news and information that you can use. And today we are powering through and I don't know how I would describe it other than an invasion of ants. There is an invasion of ants in my studio. I have killed a number of ants. They keep crawling across my paper. I don't know where they're coming from. They're the little sugar ants, not the big, black ants or the red ants. That'd be bad. But I don't know where they're coming from, but they're everywhere. So if you hear me, go like that, you'll know what's going on. I'm slapping away the ants so I can continue to broadcast with the quality, and what you won't, you'll never know, because that's the kind of consummate professionals we are.
Except now you already know.
Yeah.
And
now
anyway.
I'll tell you what happens is you see an ant, like I found one crawling up my arm. Now I've got the ant willies.
Yeah, that happens.
You know how that is.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like, is that another ant? No, it's just an itch. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be all right. All right. Well, we're gonna do our best to power through here. But I got to tell you, it is a beautiful day out there. A wonderful day to sort of get out and do some yard work or whatever you need in the evening. Take advantage of it. On the way home, we'll try to get you the news and information you need. Round 2 of our 2025 update. Here we go. 57% of Democrats want Congress to refuse certification if Trump were to win the election. Isn't that precious? I just love that. A stunning 57% of likely Democrat voters have told pollster Rasmussen Reports that Congress should refuse to certify the results of the 2024 election in the event that Donald Trump wins. The poll, sponsored by the National Pulse, asked a statistically representative 902 likely U.S. voters. Some Democrats in Congress have said that if Trump wins this year's election, they will vote against certifying the election results because of Trump's role in the January 6th Capitol riots. Do you support or oppose Democrats refusing to certify the election? Almost 2/3 of self-identified liberals said they wanted Democrats to refuse certification, despite the left and corporate media meltdown over 2020's electoral certification objections that were raised by Republicans. Now, look, here's the thing. Democrats honestly can't say much. If Trump wins, it's going to be like, oh my God, are you kidding me? If they come out and say, we're not going to certify, or we object, after all they've done is hound us for having some questions about the way things went down. And they're within our rights to raise the objections that we raised. The problem is, of course, you have to be able to prove it in a very tight window, and nobody ever can. But isn't it rich that Democrats, they condemn us for, saying, we have questions, but if they raise questions, it's completely fine. And, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. The evangelical group, Faith and Freedom. This is Ralph Reed's organization. This is good stuff. They're going to spend $62 million on a Trump get out the vote effort. Now, this is where we really need to focus, and I'll talk more about this in just a moment. Faith and Freedom Coalition, according to justthenews.com, the prominent evangelical advocacy group led by Ralph Reed, is reportedly planning to spend $62 million this election year to help likely GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump get elected. The money will go toward registering and turning out evangelical voters, according to Politico, and such efforts will include door knocking and texting and calling supporters. The spending is $10 million more than the group spent 4 years ago. In terms of home visits and voters reached at the door, to my knowledge, it's the largest effort on the right side of the Republican National Committee ever. Reid is also a longtime Republican strategist and Trump ally. The initiative also reportedly includes handing out 30 million pieces of literature in 125,000 churches, many of them in battleground states. Good on you, Ralph Reed. It's about time we got serious about this. And in fact, here's another story that's related. Lara Trump promises, she's the new co-chair of the RNC. She says it's time for the RNC to up its game and compete with more strategy against the Democrats. We've been playing checkers. They've been playing chess. Trump was elected on Friday to replace Drew McKissick. Michael Whatley, the former chairman of the North Carolina GOP, replaces outgoing chair Ronna McDaniel. And unfortunately, we don't have one day of voting, says Lara Trump. We don't have paper ballots. We don't have voter ID everywhere. So we have to play the hand that we're dealt, noting the importance of early voting and mail-in voting where possible. That way, we have votes banked as we head into Election Day, not playing catch-up on November 5th with the Democrats. We need to be doing legal ballot harvesting, something that has never been done by the RNC, but I can promise you it will be a huge part of what we're planning to do. And then come Election Day, you'll see that. I think it's not just about having poll watchers. It's about having trained poll watchers and lawyers at locations around the country as necessary. And these people will be trained and able to physically count how many ballots are coming in and how many ballots are going out. Trump said her goal is to have people trust restored in our electoral process. She also promised to increase fundraising, noting how the RNC is playing catch-up with the Democrats in this area. This is true. Truthfully, people have felt like they don't know if and when they donate their money to the RNC, it will ultimately go to the causes they care about. I hope that there will be someone who will ensure that indeed every single dollar donated, I hope to be there as someone who will ensure that indeed every single dollar donated goes to making sure we win on Election Day at the top of the ballot and down the ballot. Another ant. And this one's getting away from me. I got him. I hate ants. Trump recently launched a new children's book. Well, that's not important. So anyway, let me get back to my larger point here. See, I'm trying, but I'm so distracted.
The ants are trying to derail you. They must be Democrat ants.
They're Democrat ants. That's what it is. They don't want the truth to be told. Here's the thing about what Lara is doing. This is a good thing. And we need to get on board 1,000% with this idea. When I talk to people, they call in on, Phone Your Farm Friday or other times, and they say, well, Brian, I understand all this stuff you're telling me. The polls are looking sort of positive, and, you're optimistic, and I am. I will admit, I'm an optimistic guy. I always see the glass perhaps more as half full than half empty. I'll grant you that. But I like to keep optimism and a positive outlook about things. And as I look at things, it looks pretty good. And I say, well, I know, Brian, you talk about that, but really, honestly, how are we going to overcome, the Democrats? When they, a lot of people think that the Democrats are cheating, and I think they're right, quite frankly. In some areas, I think that's been documented. But the bottom line is that the way that we win and we compete with the Democrats is to bank all those votes early. I mean, we all have great intentions. You know what they say? The road to hell is paved with great intentions. We all have these ideas that we're going to be there on Election Day. Don't worry, I'll go vote on Election Day. But then you know what? The baby's sick and you can't go. Or, there's a problem with the car. Or, it's a rainy day and you look at it and you say, oh, I just don't really want to get out today. Whatever it is, weather, whatever it is, there can be a lot of things that happen on Election Day. But if you take advantage of mail-in voting and voting early and ballot harvesting, we're playing their game. the way they've played it, and I think actually, quite frankly, responsible for a lot of their victories is the fact that they've banked from the first day to the last day of voting. They got people banking those votes, and that way they're in there. Then if anybody comes and votes on election day for them, it's gravy, right? Well, we need to fight that. We really need to invest in this, so don't resist it. Please, 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 as we go forward, Laura Trump and Donald Trump are correct on this matter. We have to play the game that they've been playing. We're going to do it as much as we can. Now, we're going to try to do it legally, and we're going to make sure that the ballot harvesting is not done illegally, as we know it's been done in some places. But this is a good thing. So here's the 1-2 punch. Ralph Reed and Faith and Freedom spending $62 million to get people motivated to go to the polls, making sure that they're doing everything possible to get people there. And then also this idea that we're going to play the same game the Democrats are playing with early voting and mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting. We're going to do it as illegally as much as we possibly can. And that's what gives me, again, another level of hope that things are looking, I think we're in better order than we were last time around. One thing that is true is, though, Laura points out, fundraising for the Republicans is down right now. Democrats are racking up a lot of dough. They really are. So, folks, if you're so inclined, you know how to write the check. I want to talk about CNN for a moment and their election coverage. I watch CNN so you don't have to. Everybody was saying that that at the State of the Union address, it was Biden's big chance to turn things around, to prove to the American people that he was capable and he can get the job done, because his unfavorables are way up and his favorables are way down. And he's just not doing very well in the polls. And they said, but don't worry, he's going to give us a really feisty speech, and it's going to turn everything around. Don't you worry. Well, did it? Well, CNN took a look at it and they say, not so much.
Yesterday, pre-State of the Union, positive views towards Joe Biden, 33%. How about now? Well, the same. 33%, no change. The negative went up a little bit, 50% to 54%, but that's within the margin of error. The bottom line that you should be taking away here is that there has been no change in the popularity of Joe Biden among all Americans. Not a big surprise, because traditionally speaking, we haven't seen that change. I know that there was some of that immediate, post-reaction polling that suggested maybe there would be, but in reality, 33, don't have to be a mathematical wizard to know that ain't any movement.
Now, just to make sure you're following that, this is the people who have a positive feeling about Joe Biden at 33%. That's low. Well, let's just talk about who that is. When you're talking about percentage of the population, that's the dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. That's about 33% of the vote right there. That's 33% of Americans, and they look at it and say, "Oh yeah, he did a great job. We love it." But I'm telling you, 33% have a favorable opinion. 33%, 50%. Well, I think right now, 54% now have a negative opinion about Joe Biden. 33% positive, 54% negative. His numbers are not good. And again, it did go up from 50 to 54% over last year. They say, well, that's just, within the margin of error. Well, no, it's still 4 points. It still is. I have a feeling that if they hoped that this was going to be the big turnaround moment, that they have been completely disabused of that notion. It is 21 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. The chairman of the Federal Reserve has said that we're on an unsustainable fiscal path, which means that they're not going to pay off the $34 trillion debt anytime soon. You know what they'll do. They'll just print money to pay on the interest on the debt and thus debase the U.S. dollar. What you ought to do is think about saving with gold and other precious metals. See, gold and silver can be a safe haven in uncertain economic times. And my friends at Nashville Gold and Coin are standing by to answer all your questions about the precious metals market. Maybe you've thought about adding gold or other precious metals to your portfolio, but you feel like you don't have knowledge, so you need to make a smart decision. That's the way I felt, but I got the professional guidance I need at Nashville Golden Coin. Now, the way this works is you make an appointment and you sit down one-on-one with my friends at Nashville Golden Coin. They'll answer all your questions and help you make the precious metal investment that is right for you. It's friendly. You're going to learn a lot. You'll never be subjected to a high-pressure sales pitch. To set up that one-on-one appointment, just go to NashvilleGoldenCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldenCoin.com.
Former President Trump seeking a delay in his trial in the 2016 hush money case. Some crime here in Tennessee, and Boeing having some more issues with their planes. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right, it's time for Mac Morey's Wild World of Sports. Now here he is. You know him, you love him. The one, the only Mac Morey.
Hello. How are we?
We're well.
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay.
Well, you don't have any ants to contend with, so
That's
you guys
true.
are in a much better place than I am.
True, yeah.
All right, what you got for us today, Mac?
Big day in the NFL today, guys. This is what in the NFL world they call the legal tampering period. So for 52 hours or so, you can legally now talk to these players and decide to sign different players, trade for different players before the official NFL year starts on Wednesday and free agency officially opens. So they're giving these teams these opportunities to actually start talking to these players. Now, of course, the legal tampering period always begins at noon on this Monday, and at 12:01 we get 4 or 5 huge deals that come through. It's like, wow, they worked that out in 60 seconds.
How did that happen?
That's so amazing. Wow,
Yeah.
just great negotiations, great business dealings from those agents. But the Titans were very involved in the first day of free free agency or, quote unquote, the legal tampering period, starting on offense. They brought in running back from the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Pollard. Now, this is a guy who, if you just look at per rush attempt, he led the league in yards after contact. If you just look at per rush attempt in the last 3 seasons. Now, he did deal with an injury just at the end of the 2022 season. So this last year in 2023, kind of still working through some things, not necessarily having that same burst that he had. But this is a 26-year-old running back in Tony Pollard. He's going to join Tajay Spears in the backfield. He's a 3-down back. He can catch passes. He can run routes. And now you've got 2 3-down diverse running backs in the backfield to help out Will Levis in what's going to be a pass-first offense. These guys can run little routes into the flat, and a good running back who can pass block, catch passes, and, of course, run the football at an average basis is so good for a young quarterback who's just learning how to read these defenses. To know that you have that check down, who's going to be able to catch a pass, maybe make a man miss for an extra 4 or 5 yards, to have 2 of those options now in the backfield for Will Levis and a young quarterback is huge. Again, Pollard, 3-year, $24 million deal. So a decent amount of money, I believe is $16 million guaranteed.
Well, okay, but I mean, he has been hurt.
He has.
And you say when he came back, he hasn't been at full strength. I mean, how do you, if you're the Titans, how do you have confidence that he's going to be okay?
You're saying, you know what? A lot of people, so this started a few years ago, get the guy a year after the injury, and then that quickly shifted to a year after the year after. So now if you get a guy who tore his ACL in 2022, 2023, that's not going to be great. But 2024, when he's fully back, when he's fully healthy, and maybe you didn't use him as much in that previous year because he was coming off of that injury, he's got less reps, that is when you can really strike on a guy, especially if they're young. Pollard, 26 years old. Yeah. He's in his prime, and he didn't have a lot of reps last year. Of course, he played for the Cowboys the whole season, but they really went different directions. They had to bring in Rico Dowdle, and they've got a young guy from K-State that they brought in to kind of help give him some rest there. But Pollard, he's still going to have a guy in Tajay Spears. It's not like Pollard's going to need to be Derrick Henry of 2019 every down, running the ball, catching passes. Pollard and Tajay Spears are going to be on the field together at times, I believe, this year, which is just going to just provide so many problems for defenses. I'm really excited about this signing. It's a lot of money, and not necessarily the position that I would want to spend my money at early, but the more I've thought about this, I can see Rand Carthon's vision.
So, and remind me, where are we on Derrick Henry?
So that's the sad part of this signing, right? So basically this all but confirms Derrick Henry's days as a Tennessee Titan are indeed over. Signing this running back, spending this money at a position. Now you've got 2 starting running backs. You're not going to sign Derrick Henry. So his time as a Tennessee Titan, this pretty much does it. This is it. He's talking with the Ravens, reports today from multiple NFL reporters.
That, right. Yeah.
So, possibly the Dallas Cowboys, which, funny enough, is where Tony Pollard comes from. So we could have a little bit of a running back switch.
How about that? Yeah.
And just really quick, Lloyd Cushenberry, center for the Denver Broncos for the last 3 years, a really good lineman, 2nd in pass block win rate this last year, 3rd in total pressures allowed, and least pressures allowed for centers. So he's going to be, he's 6'3", he's 320 pounds. He's big enough to play the position. They've been struggling with that at center. And again, a leader of the offensive line for your young quarterback who's just learning to read defenses, to have another guy up there can say, hey, that's the mic. Identify the mic right there. Or, hey, we're going to get this assignment over here on the left. Will Levis, you got a blind side on your right. Make sure you got to throw this out. Like just those things from Cushenberry that he'll be able to provide. Great. And then just an hour ago or so, Chidobe Awuzie, 28-year-old cornerback who's spent his last 3 years with the Cincinnati Bengals, coming to the Titans. That was a huge position of need. They needed a cornerback. He was a big part of the Cincinnati Bengals Super Bowl run in 2021. Again, another guy who injured himself in 2022, struggled a little bit in 2023. Rand Carthon, obviously a year after the year after guy.
Okay,
They're
sounds
putting the
great.
pieces together.
They are.
Yeah, it's starting to look
Slowly but
good.
surely.
We're excited. All right, time for the news now. With Mac Morey, it's 31 past the hour.
.531, I'm Mac Morey with your top story, 62 degrees and gorgeous on Music Row. Traffic report, weather forecast in 5 minutes. Former President Trump seeking a delay in his trial in the 2016 hush money case. In court filings in New York today, Trump's lawyers argued the U.S. Supreme Court should first rule on Trump's presidential immunity claim. The criminal case against him is scheduled to start on March 25th in New York State Court. Aaron Katersky.
The former president's attorneys have said that because the Supreme Court is still going to take up his argument that he cannot be tried for conduct that occurred while in office, that this case should be put on pause. Unlike his federal cases, Trump is not saying here the case over a hush payment to Stormy Daniels should be dismissed. He's just saying that certain evidence might have to be excluded if the Supreme Court rules in his favor.
Crime right now in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a suspect, Monterey Von Tex Johnson, is in custody after 2 people were shot and killed yesterday. This was in Springfield. Officers responded to a shots fired call, found 2 people in a parked car with gunshot wounds. Johnson's being held in the Robertson County Jail, facing 2 counts of criminal homicide, according to the Springfield Police Department. Boeing, with a number of incidents involving its planes in recent weeks, the FAA has stepped up oversight on the company and says Boeing airplanes are safe to fly on. Alex Stone.
With Boeing in the spotlight after a series of recent incidents and questions about its quality assurance at its factories after that door plug flew off an Alaska Airlines MAX 9 while in flight, FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker says its inspectors are in Boeing factories demanding answers from the company and making sure Boeing airplanes are safe to fly on.
Right now, with our oversight, we're certifying them as safe, yes.
The FAA is demanding Boeing produce an action plan to increase quality assurance.
And that is the latest news, weather forecast, and a traffic report on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
You know, there are like 10 premier bridal designers that every woman knows about. They're like the Mercedes or the Louis Vuitton of engagement rings, world-class, iconic quality names like Tacori and Verragio. These designers are hard to get, and every jewelry store wants them, but very few make the cut. So they have to settle for lesser brands or knockoffs. Around here, there's only one jewelry store that offers these premium rings, and it's Genesis Diamonds. Genesis is the only one that made the cut that meets the highest standards. Genesis is the only store that's allowed to offer these exceptional brands that women really want. Other stores are jealous of this and try to convince you that these are more expensive, and they try to get you to settle for something else. But the truth is, Genesis has top-quality designer rings for under $2,000. It's not about price. It's about craftsmanship, quality, detail, and individuality. So don't compromise. Don't settle. Give her a world-class ring she will be proud to wear. Genesis Diamond, Green Hills in Cool Springs, also home to the state's largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes. 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. For those of you out there who are concerned about me, they have been apparently on the super text line. What is it? The nation's. I can't remember the title. We have
the members nutrition.
Super text line. Actually, my apologies. I'm sorry. I have that written down somewhere. But they apparently are very concerned about my ant infestation, and we appreciate the guidance. I'm not in any personal danger.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, but it has been irritating because I don't know where they're coming from. Anyway, I want to talk about what's going on down in Haiti. Boy, I tell you, Haiti, what a hellhole that is. Right now, we have U.S. forces that have flown into the airport at Port-au-Prince. Military forces are in Haiti now to evacuate non-essential personnel from the embassy that we maintain in Haiti. Apparently, the situation there has gotten pretty grim. Aircraft flew into the embassy compound, U.S. Southern Command, meaning that the effort involved helicopters. Is careful to point out that no Haitians were aboard the military aircraft. Seem to be aimed at quashing speculation that senior government officials might be leaving the country. The neighborhood around the embassy and the capital, Port-au-Prince, largely now controlled by gangs. The airlift of personnel into and out of the embassy is consistent with our standard practice for embassy security. No Haitians, again, were on board the military aircraft. In many cases, non-essential personnel can include the families of diplomats, but the embassy had already ordered departure of non-essential staff. So it looks like they're down to just a core few group of people down there at Port-au-Prince as the situation is not secure. And I would imagine they're beefing up security around the embassy there in Port-au-Prince. As you may remember, I've been to Haiti a couple of times on assignment. The first one was when they returned Aristide as president. He was sort of in exile here in the United States for many years, and they returned him, and forces went in there to make sure he got back in control after being, sort of run out of the country by thugs. And I was there for that, and then I went back down for the Haitian earthquake, and that was quite an experience as well. The thing about Haiti that you need to understand is it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. It is. It's so poor. And it's really remarkable, though. To me, if you look at the island of Hispaniola, half of it is Haiti and half of it is the Dominican Republic. What's interesting is both of these countries should have, the same kind of resources, the same kind of things available to them. The Dominican Republic side of the island of Hispaniola is a place people go. They take cruise boats there. I've been to the DR. It's a completely lovely and relatively safe place to go. I wouldn't go in some places, but most of the places you can get around. There's some law and order in the Dominican Republic. And by the way, it's lovely. It's beautiful. Haiti, which is just across a ridge of mountains, and it's the same island on the other side of the mountains, is a godforsaken hellhole. I mean, it's bad. And in Haiti, they used to have trees, but they have literally stripped the island of trees because they needed the wood to stay warm and to cook. So there are no trees in Haiti at all. And I remember during the earthquake, it was really brought home to me. We had to fly into the Dominican Republic because we couldn't fly directly into Haiti after the earthquake. And then we took a truck. I took a truck over the mountains. I was a passenger in a truck. I think they were also smuggling people in at the same time. I didn't ask too many questions, but they got me over the mountain and they got me to where I needed to be. And when we crossed the mountain and we went from the DR into Haiti, it was amazing to me, the stark difference between the two countries. I mean, it is lawless there. And it was scary, quite frankly. When the earthquake happened, one of the things is you notice that the buildings there are not built to any kind of existing code. Here in the United States, we have certain building codes, right? Most modern countries have building codes. Not so in Haiti. So you would see one building that had been built with the proper codes, and it would be standing. And literally the next building over was a pile of dust and rubble. They would look like they just exploded. And so it was really bad there. And one of the things that happened is apparently the jail, some of the walls of the jail came down during the earthquake, and some of the walls came down in the nearby police station, and the criminals from the jail went to the police station and loaded up on guns. I mean, it's like, man, it was scary. We had these big burly guys, British Special Forces guys, who retired Special Forces from Britain, who were our escorts everywhere, wouldn't let us get out of the car until they cleared the area and made it secure, carrying Uzis. I mean, it was like the craziest thing ever. But one thing or the other is I love the people of Haiti, but it's a perfect example of why government matters. And the kind of government that you have matters. In the DR, in the Dominican Republic, they have a workable form of government. Is it perfect? No, none of them are, really, honestly, not even ours. But on the other side of Haiti, it's chaos. And there is no reliable government. And if you are in government, you're probably a crook because they just steal from the Haitian people. Same island, two different forms of government is the difference between Dominican Republic and the hellhole that is Haiti. And I'm telling you, it can be dangerous and it can be scary in Haiti. There was a place called Cité du Soleil, City of the Sun is what they called it, which is a part of Port-au-Prince. And I'm telling you, we went down there, but we had about 6 guys with Uzis protecting us because it's dangerous. And my heart goes out to the people of Haiti who deserve better than they've gotten because I think they're sweet. There are some really sweet, people there who deserve far better than they get from their government. And I really hate that Haiti is going through another bad time. I don't know what it would take to solve that problem. But boy, if you ever need an example of why having a workable form of government is important, look at the Dominican Republic and compare and contrast it to Haiti. 2 countries, same island, same resources. One is a lovely tropical paradise. The other is a stinking hellhole that you would never want to go to if you could avoid it. So my hope is that everybody's going to be okay there. 50 people injured by a strong movement on a Boeing plane flying from Australia to New Zealand. I don't know. There's some kind of a technical event, they said. That's all they're saying right now. Technical events. Apparently it caused what they call, this is a quotation, strong movement of the aircraft, which means it took a nosedive, and everybody that was in the aircraft that wasn't buckled up ended up bunking their heads on the overhead. I mean, you become airborne if you're not, when you take a real strong dive like that. So they I don't know what the problem is, but boy, has Boeing been through a round lately. Used to be Boeing was, a name of quality, and you knew if you were getting on a Boeing 737, you were getting on a pretty solid aircraft. And it's fact true that the folks at Southwest, that's the only aircraft they fly, and to my knowledge, they've never had a fatal accident. They've had some where they've run off the runways, but nobody was killed. But they've never had a fatal crash, and I knock on wood that doesn't jinx them. But it used to be that Boeing was a name that you respected, and now it's the butt of jokes. And I don't know what caused this, but it seriously needs to be looked at. Quality control apparently has become an issue at Boeing, and they better get their act together because our dominance and our ability to build world-class aircraft that are used around the world is about to be lost if they don't. Speaking of airlines, around 160 Southwest airline flights to Florida were canceled over the weekend because they were having really bad thunderstorms down there. And Nashville was impacted by this. I think our own Dan Mandis, who was trying to get on a cruise ship in Florida, I think he what I read this weekend on social media was that he had tried on 3 different occasions to make the flight down to Florida on Southwest, and all 3 of the flights got canceled. So I think I saw a picture of him standing next to a ship. Sort of looked suspiciously like a Disney cruise. I'm not sure. No, it wasn't a Disney cruise. I'm joking. But I mean, he apparently had to drive it.
That's what we understand, yeah.
That's what I understand, unless something happened at the last minute. The last I heard was he was going to have to drive it. And but apparently a lot of people wanted to go down to Florida for spring break, and they couldn't get there. And we had a bunch of flights that were sort of canceled here. And this is the weekend before spring break for Metro Nashville Public Schools and other local districts. So a lot of families were going down to Florida to spring for the Metro Nashville Public Schools spring break, and they couldn't get there. But anyway, apparently those thunderstorms have now moved on, and it's bad. It's better. We kid Dan Mandis a lot, but he's one of the hardest working guys that I've ever known. He works hard. He puts in his time, and he gets up. I used to get up when I did the morning show. I did some prep the night before, but then I would get up at 3, and I would come to the station. I'd be the station by about a little bit before 4. And I would work hard to prep for the show, and I went on the air at 5. Dan gets up at 1.
Oof.
He gets up at 1 o'clock in the morning and goes to work. And we're peppering him with questions and bothering him all day long with stuff because he's the program director. But I really hope that he and Amy have a great vacation. But I'm sorry you had to drive at the last minute all the way to Florida. My goodness. To have, and you have to do it in a hurry. There's a moment where you say, well, we're obviously not going to get a flight. How far is it to Florida? How many hours do we need to drive to get there? So apparently they got there because I saw him standing outside a cruise ship on social media. So I guess.
Yeah, he was trying to prove that it wasn't a Disney cruise.
He was making the point that it wasn't a Disney cruise.
But how do we know that was his cruise?
That's
ship?
Right. Because on the other side of the dock was the Disney cruise. That's right.
Uh-huh.
50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Grace Point Healthcare is the standard for affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine. How? Well, as a direct pay provider, your healthcare is delivered without the red tape of insurers' guidelines. Smart Care plans make it even more affordable. Starting at $69 a month, you get 3 office visits and basic labs for the entire year. Grace Point identifies and treats the root causes of conditions, not just the symptoms, through a comprehensive functional approach. And by usually seeing you the same or next day, you're treated at your convenience. Grace Point Healthcare, affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medical care delivered the old-fashioned way. If you want to make an appointment, just go to, just call them at 599-6868. That's 599-6868. Grace Point Healthcare in Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 61 degrees, sunny in Nashville. Traffic, complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, a barricaded situation now over and ending with a suspect in custody. Channel 4 Sharon Dankwa.
They say there were dozens of Metro Police cars and even the SWAT team. Now, they showed up here looking for a man, as you mentioned, that had multiple warrants out for his arrest. Now, Metro Police say when they got here, the man barricaded himself in some sort of either a car or a home. And they say what actually happened was a canine officer ended up getting the man, and they ended up using also neighbors in the area say they heard flashbangs. So they got the man, they put him in a ambulance. I know he was also arrested as well, but police say now the neighborhood is safe, the situation is clear, and neighbors in the area should not have any worry.
Another crime story in Tennessee. Metro Police searching for a man who allegedly sexually assaulted a 15-year-old boy at Seven Oaks Park. Happened on Thursday. The boy said he was at the park before a strange man approached him, pulled him into the woods. That suspect is described as a man in his 50s with crooked teeth and freckles. The man left the park in a 2000s model Honda Civic sedan, drove towards Night Drive. Officers searching throughout the city for his vehicle. And a takeover in the hotel business won't happen after all. Daria Albinger has details.
Choice Hotels is ending its $8 billion hostile takeover bid for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Officials for Choice say they couldn't convince enough Wyndham shareholders to embrace the deal. Choice launched the hostile takeover offer back in December after repeated attempts to buy the rival chain were turned down. Choice runs about 7,500 hotels, including Howard Johnson, Super 8, and Travelodge brands. Wyndham runs Days Inn, La Quinta, Ramada, and a number of other brands.
And in sports, a big NFL day. Today at noon was the beginning of the legal tampering period where teams could start talking to free agents before the league year officially starts Wednesday. The Titans have been involved. They signed running back Tony Pollard, who was previously with the Cowboys. That's a 3-year, $24 million deal. Center Lloyd Cushenberry, he played multiple years with the Denver Broncos. He's now going to be a Titan. The terms of that deal have just been released. I haven't yet gotten to see those. And most recently this afternoon, the Titans inked a deal with 28-year-old cornerback Chidobe Awuzie. He spent his last 3 seasons with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was a big part of that 2021 Super Bowl run. No details on that deal yet either. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, it's 6 o'clock and it's still light outside. How about them apples, huh?
I still see sunshine.
I still see sunshine. What's that all about? Weird. So weird. It's been a beautiful Monday, and here in beautiful bucolic. I got to get the words right. Bucolic Watertown. We're doing our best to fight our way through a substantial ant infestation in the studio. And people have been giving me a lot of good. What's this stuff they recommend?
Oh, Terra?
Taro?
Terra or Taro? I forget which. It's one of those. Taro. Yeah, Taro.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will vouch for that stuff as well. It does work quite well.
Yeah.
And
so
quickly.
I got to get me some of that. But, we're broadcast professionals, and even though I may be bitten and stung, I will not abandon my post. I will stay here and continue to bring you news and information you can use. Okay. So here, you got these two guys in the state legislature, the two Justins. One of them, Tennessee State Representative Justin Jones, traveled to a migrant caravan camp in Mexico on Friday, where he claimed that there is no invasion of migrants at the U.S. border. He says, and this is a quote, "We are here in Reynosa at the second largest migrant camp to bear witness at what is happening to this crisis of migration that is really a humanitarian crisis, but also a crisis of humanity." Okay, first of all, Reynosa. Listen, it is way down south and not in the area where this is coming. And if he says it's the second largest migrant camp, I would beg to differ. I think that the bigger ones are well north, and I don't think it's the second largest. And I think that he went to a place where there wasn't much happening. So he says, well, there's not much going on here. It's no invasion of migrants. It's just a humanitarian crisis. Well, I'll agree it's a humanitarian crisis. But it is a humanitarian crisis that is made and perpetrated on these poor migrants by the Biden administration, who gave them a good reason to try to make this journey to America. He says what we're witnessing is the fact that it's just not a rhetorical violence when we see the demonization of migrants, but a policy violence. Okay, look, here's the thing. I have no issue at all with people who want to come to this country legally. None whatsoever. But when the first act that you commit, when you come across the border, you've already violated American law. And what we're doing here is we're saying, that's okay. Come on in. Hey, a pat on the back. Here's a plane ticket. Here's a bus ticket. And where do you want to go? America's that way. Have a good day. We'll see you in 7 years. Maybe, or maybe not. Because some of these hearings that are now being scheduled are 7 years out. Now, they're not doing the DNA testing they're supposed to be doing. They're not doing a lot of things. And this is all Biden's fault. But Justin Jones sees it as being someone else's fault. And he's critical of Governor Bill Lee for sending, National Guardsmen down there. I would say, number one, I'm glad we're sending National Guardsmen. We're going to have Governor Lee on a little later this week. He'll be on Thursday. We haven't had him in a while. I'm glad to have him. But one of the first things I want to say is thank you for doing that. Because, I'm glad that you sent those troops down there. Justin Jones is a joke, just absolutely a joke. And this comes, it wasn't long ago he was on the floor of the Tennessee General Assembly calling it a neo-Nazi rally. That's the kind of guy we're talking about. This is a guy who just wants to stir the pot. I always say to people, if you want to truly change things, get involved in the process. But these two Justins, they don't care anything about the process. They don't care anything about trying to accomplish anything or working through the process. They're just down there to be agents of chaos. And that's what this guy's doing. So he goes to Mexico and goes to a migrant camp, doesn't bother to look what the Border Patrol's going on, doesn't bother to find out what's happening just across from the river, from Reynosa, doesn't bother to go to McAllen to find out what's going on there and the kind of problems that they may be seeing. And first of all, he tells you a story that's not true because he's a long way. I looked it up on the map. 300 miles from Eagle Pass. He's 300 miles from where the real action is. So if you want to know what's going on, why don't you go to the place where the real action is? I don't know. The guy, to me, is a joke. House Republicans are demanding answers over the 320 illegal immigrants flown into the United States. They were on the outside of the United States, and they were flown, the best we can tell, into the United States to some 43 different airports around the country by the Biden administration. Now, we were talking about this with Senator Marsha Blackburn earlier in the show during the 4 o'clock hour, and she says it may be that they flew them to the border and then picked them up on the other side and then flew them again to wherever they wanted to go. Not sure, but one way or the other, it's the initial reporting on this was that 320,000 illegal immigrants were flown directly from country of origin into the United States, and now 24 House Republicans have sent a letter to Customs and Border Protection Acting Commissioner Troy Miller asking for information about all this. This is, by the way, 320,000 in 2023 alone is the report. This comes from documents that have been obtained by the Center for Immigration Studies and handed to reporters. And I've been wondering, when is somebody going to start picking up this story and running with it? Huge story. There have been some limited reporting of it, but I'll be interested to see whether or not these House Republicans can get the real answer and find out what truly is going on. There seems to be some vagueness. And by the way, I think the 43 cities that they were flown to need to be identified. It's not right for these sanctuary cities to say, well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is causing us all kinds of headaches. Greg Abbott, by his own count, says that we have located and moved about 105,000 people into sanctuary cities, about 105,300 people. But this program that has been identified by the Center for Immigration Studies is said to be of 320,000. I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, we don't know because they won't tell us which cities they flew into, but it's entirely possible that some of these so-called sanctuary cities who are complaining about the immigrants that are being sent by Texas may have had more sent to them by the Biden administration. But we won't know that until we find out the cities. This story, I'm telling you, it's burbling right beneath the surface. It to me, it's one of the most underreported stories in America today. And I think that most Americans, if you tried to talk to them, they haven't heard anything about it. But there are a few people who are picking up the story, and now apparently some elected members of Congress are asking questions as well. And this, we got to get a big salute to Bill Hagerty, the junior senator from the state of Tennessee, U.S. senator, because he tried to put a bill through that would have barred illegal immigrants from being counted in the national census, warning that their numbers go toward, the deciding how many seats in the House of Representatives a state gets and how many electoral college votes it might have. And so soon after President Joe Biden took office in 2021, he signed an executive order requiring the Census Bureau to determine the population of each state in the U.S. without regard to whether resident was there lawfully or not. The amendment, which would be added that Hagerty tried to push through, was going to be added to that, would have stripped that out. And here's the thing. Democrats struck it down unanimously in the Senate. The measure was shot down 51 votes against, 45 votes for. They failed to get even a single Democrat vote. Here's what Hagerty said afterwards. He said, Democrats' unanimous opposition to this common sense measure confirms that they're using illegal aliens and sanctuary cities to increase their political power. With this vote, Senate Democrats chose to trample on the rights of each American's voice. I will continue to fight and press this issue in the Senate, he said. He says that Democrats in sanctuary cities, though they complain, are allowing illegal immigrants into their regions and hoping to gain more votes and greater representation in the House of Representatives and Electoral College. See, they got to make up. This is actually, he's probably right about this. They have to make up for all the people who've left places like New York and Chicago and California. They're leaving, and when they leave, you start to lose seats in the House of Representatives. You start to lose Electoral College votes because there's a migration happening in America. So in order to counteract the migration, these migrants are being allowed in. I want to know where the 46 cities are. And are they sending them to places that would help their Electoral College count? See, they're playing dirty pool, the Democrats are on this. They know there's a big strategic plan. And although I get yelled at sometimes by Democrats for suggesting this is all about trying to change the voting dynamics in America today. And make sure, you watch. A lot of these places are going to, a lot of these cities are going to give the illegal migrants that have come to those towns the ability to vote in local elections, which gets them on the voter rolls. And then, then it's up to their own word or their own conscience, I guess, because they'll be asked, well, are you a legal citizen? They don't have to, once they get the voting document, is there anything on that voting document that says you can't vote in a national election? You're not supposed to. But I have a feeling some will. Man, I got bad feelings about how this is all going to play out in the election, for sure. Let's keep an eye on that. All right, so there's all of the border news. I got another thing I want to hit while I got a minute or two left before we have to take a commercial break. There's a movement, apparently, in the Nashville area to not mow your yards in the month of April. Have you heard about this?
What?
I'm not making it up. This is from the Tennessean. You might see your neighbor's grass growing a bit taller than usual this spring. The unkept lawns, however, are probably intentional, at least in some neighborhoods, like the Forest Hills neighborhood. The city has pledged No Mow April in partnership with the nonprofit organization Cumberland River Compact. They're trying to positively impact quality through partnerships and education. No Mow April will avoid mowing their lawns during the month of April in an effort to contribute to environmental conservation efforts. And they're asking people in Davidson County to do this. In 2023, over 200 yards were pledged. See, that's a great way to get out of some yard work, what it sounds like to me. Oh, yeah, I know the yard looks how it's horrible, but we're doing this for the good of the environment.
In April, that's like the worst possible month that you could do it because that's just when the grass is cranking up. It's growing real fast.
Right.
In April. It's already been no mow for the last 5 months.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
right.
Getting started.
I don't know. They say that transitioning yards to resemble native habitats prior to urbanization offers conservation advantages that support local waterways and ecosystems. So letting your grass be very tall in the month of April, they say, will help for cleaner water in the river. I don't know. So they're urging people to take a break. Now, you could look at this two ways. You could say, well, I want to do this because I think it will help the ecology of the area. Or you could look at it and say, well, I don't really care a whole whit about the ecology of the area, but I don't really like mowing my yard.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to look after you mow it once it's not been mowed for a month, but hey, go for it.
Yeah. In reality, maintaining a pristine grass lawn takes up a lot of resources and is detrimental to the environment. Yeah, I know. Can't help it. Got the Cub Cadet mower, and I'm not going to stop. Sorry, they'll be mowing in April. 21 past the hour. What would you do and how would you feel if you had no pain? Or maybe you have a loved one that's in pain and you know what they're going through, and how would it be if they had no pain? Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Ashley at the Wellness Institute of Nashville can help you find a pain-free life. And because getting better and feeling healthy is important to Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, they are freezing the cost at $20 23 levels. That's right. That's right. You can save a lot of money this way. Holding pricing for just $23 for new patients. You get an exam, a consultation, x-rays included if needed, or you can bring in an MRI report and go over it with the doctor. They will come up with a diagnosis and a game plan that will get you feeling better so much more quickly. Listen, they're good people, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley. Dr. Mitchell has studied and practiced all over the world. Dr. Ashley not only has chiropractic experience, but she has achieved clinical excellence in holistic healing, and she knows a lot about nutrition, cold lasers, and stress reduction, much more. So why don't you call Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley to set up your consultation today at 615-246-5009. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. And you can learn more by going to painisbad.com. Thank you, Mac Morey. We appreciate your diligence there in the newsroom, working so hard. I'm Brian Wilson in the bucolic Watertown, and over there is Chris Weber pushing all the blinky buttons. Couple of stories, the local stories that have really caught my eye today. The first one is the sad story of this University of Missouri student. This is a mystery. There's got to be some answers here, but it's really quite confusing what's happened here. A Missouri family, according to WKRN, desperate for answers after a University of Missouri student went missing while visiting Nashville over the weekend. This is the family of 22-year-old Riley Strain, who rushed in from Springfield, Missouri, to see if they could gather any information about their son's whereabouts. He was here for a fraternity conference, 6'5", 160 pounds, tall, skinny dude, blue eyes, blonde hair. He was last seen wearing a brown button-up shirt with a black chest pocket, blue jeans, brown boots, and a black Apple Watch. Metro Nashville police were called in and alerted to his disappearance on Saturday. They were called to the Tempo Hotel, located off Broadway and Rosa L. Parks Boulevard. They spoke to Strain's friend, who reported they told him that the last time they saw him was on Friday, March 8th, getting kicked out of Luke Bryan's bar on Broadway. Police records state his friends tried to use his Snapchat location to find him. When able to see him in the area, they've been trying to ping the guy's phone. It is not on. According to Metro Nashville Police Department, Strain's parents came to Nashville after friends informed them of his disappearance. When we got into town Saturday evening, we met with a Metro Nashville police officer, and he's been amazing, said Chris Whitfield. He's made phone calls. He's radioed people to check locations while he was with us. He was also making phone calls, and he sent the report out and it hit the national database. The parents are very pleased with the police, but they're really worried about their son. Authorities said Riley's cell phone provider was not able to get a live ping due to the phone being turned off, and his service provider was able to give law enforcement his last location, which pinged near a cell tower located at 19 Oldham Street. Family tracked his last cell phone location to Gay Street and James Robertson Parkway, which is very close to the cell tower and less than a mile from the Luke Bryan's bar on Broadway. So what happened here, unknown, but real concerns about the welfare of this 22-year-old Missouri student who came here, as many do, to blow off steam and go to Lower Broad and maybe drink a little too much. Big fraternity, thing going on. And, we hope a good outcome here, but concerns are high. And then this other story locally, which I think is pretty interesting. The thieves stole high-end vehicles from a Lawrenceburg showroom. They got about $300,000 worth of top-end vehicles. They got a Z6 Corvette worth $148,000, and then a high-end Denali, which I think was like $80,000. I'm sorry, it's a GMC Yukon was stolen, and a 2024 Sierra was stolen. They just busted out the windows of the service lane where you bring your car in. They used a crowbar to break open the lockbox, and then drove the cars out. Just took off with them. Left the showroom at 3:05 a.m. Now, they got a good picture of one of them. The other one was covered up from head to toe, but they lost some high-end vehicles there. Wow, what a heist. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, was it stinky? You know, the last time you went to an auto repair shop, smelly, greasy old rags lying around, a dirty, filthy countertop that you wouldn't dare touch. Another thing that stinks is the repair shops that keep your car forever. They're not honest and they don't call you back when they say they will. If that was your last experience at a vehicle repair shop, well, listen, why don't you check out Eurofix? Eurofix takes the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit, no high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair, and you never pay dealer prices. Eurofix now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX, that's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you. "37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive on this Monday, March 11th. It's still a lot of light in the sky. It's really weird. So strange. Used to walking, home, and it's almost dark. It's not going to be dark.
It is very
it is sort of an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, it really is. It's strange.
It's going to take a couple days to get used to it.
Yeah, it does. It does. The worst one, though, is when we go back. And then all of a sudden, you're used to having a little daylight at the end of the day, and it's just dark.
Yeah.
When you walk out. I know. Well, anyway, we got some. Remember the January 6th committee that the Democrats were running when the Democrats controlled the House of Representatives? They called it a committee, but it really wasn't a committee. It was a one-sided witch hunt, is what it was. And they were bound and determined to take their investigation and slam Donald Trump as being responsible for what happened on January 6th. They had no Republicans on the panel. The Republicans even thought about trying to get one on, and they said, no, we don't like that one. And by the way, no, we're not going to have any Republicans. We're just going to do this one side. So it's really not a committee, except that they did issue subpoenas. I don't know how you do that. Traditionally, all the years that I've ever covered Capitol Hill, if you have an inquiry, you have Republicans and you have Democrats. They get appointed by the leaders of each particular party in the House of Representatives, and then that's the way you go forward. But the Democrats wanted this to be a one-sided affair. They wanted to tell the story the way they wanted to tell it, and they wanted to gather up all the information. I think mainly to protect Nancy Pelosi, because I think she holds a great deal of responsibility for what happened that day. But now the Republicans have taken back over the House. When they came in, they said, well, we're gonna look at the investigation that Democrats had to see, if they were honest with the information they gathered, since we were cut out of the process before. And they, what they found out? They found out they couldn't get a lot of the documents because they were in encrypted hard drives, and nobody was telling them how to break into the encryption. What's the password? Nobody was willing to provide that for them. And so it's been very hard for them to go and look at all of the testimony they gathered, because so much of it, was either missing or in encrypted hard drives. Yeah, sure, here's the hard drive. Good luck. It's dirty. It's really dirty. The way that's not supposed to, by the way, the archives are supposed to be able to, protect this stuff, and it's in violation of House rules to do that. But that's the way Republicans found it, and they're trying to find out. Well, now we're finding a few things that the Democrats said were true or not true. I got two examples here. Hidden January 6th transcript revealed, undermining the House committee's claim. This is the Democrats' claim. White House officials say then President Donald Trump offered 10,000 troops to secure the Capitol. This from the Epoch Times. A previously hidden transcript of an interview conducted by a U.S. House of Representatives panel that investigated the January 6, 2021 breach of the U.S. Capitol has been revealed, undermining a committee claim. Again, this was the Democrat investigation. Anthony Ornato, who was the White House Deputy Chief of Staff during the breach, told the committee he overheard Mark Meadows, who was then the Chief of Staff, on the phone with Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser. According to the transcript, Mr. Meadows wanted to ensure Ms. Bowser had everything she needed. Mr. Meadows wanted to know if she needed any more guardsmen. I remember the number 10,000 coming up. The president wants to make sure you have enough, He's willing to ask for 10,000. I remember that number now that you said it. It reminded me. Ms. Bowser said that she was all set, Mr. Ornato recalled. Mr. Ornato was speaking to the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th on the U.S. Capitol. Remember, this was, however, was the Republican. This was the Democrat investigation. The committee said in its final report it found no evidence supporting the idea that former President Donald Trump ordered 10,000 troops to be ready for January 6th. That's not what he has claimed. He has claimed that he offered to send as many as 10,000 troops, but nobody took him up on the offer. He didn't say he was prepared to order. He was going to order it. He said, I will do it if you feel like, you want it. I can't send them down there, and on my own to protect your building, separation of powers and all that. But he was saying that he would provide up to 10,000 National Guardsmen to protect the Capitol. Now, Muriel Bowser turned him down. She's the mayor of the city. All right. The word went out that Nancy Pelosi was, got this offer. They'll send the National Guard as many as you want. And she reportedly said, I don't like the optics of it. And so the entire security plan really came down to a few bicycle racks. I was there. I saw it. There was no outward security out there on the perimeter, outward perimeter. I kept my distance, so I couldn't see everything that was going up around the door, and I certainly never entered the building on that day. But, there was literally no security outside the Capitol. And so now comes word that apparently there was an offer made from the Trump White House to provide as many as 10,000 National Guardsmen, which would have made a real difference. Then remember this. The testimony was that apparently then President Trump after delivering the speech, wanted to go down to the Capitol. And the Secret Service said, Mr. President, that's a bad idea. Now, they don't get to say they don't have the final say. But apparently they didn't want to go down there because they were afraid things could spiral out of control. And so the report was Trump got so enraged and so angry that he grabbed one of the Secret Service people by the neck and said, take me down there. I said, take me down there. That was the allegation. Okay, you ready? The driver of former President Trump's car on January 6th disputed bombshell testimony that he tried to take control of the car, even as the witness affirmed the former president's insistence on joining his supporters at the Capitol. This is from thehill.com. The detail, released as part of a broader report from House Republicans that minimizes Trump's role on the destruction that day, takes aim at star witness Cassidy Hutchison's testimony before the now disbanded and completely Democratic, I will add, January 6th committee. Hutchison told the committee she heard Trump had lunged for the steering wheel following his speech near the White House in an apparent effort to veer toward the Capitol, a story that was relayed to her by others. President Trump never grabbed the steering wheel. I didn't see him, lunge to try to get into the front seat at all, said the unnamed driver to the committee's investigators. A subcommittee on the House Committee of Administration, which drafted the report, did not release the full transcript with the driver, which has been requested by reporters. However, it's not to say that Trump didn't insist that he wanted to go down there. It's just that they tried to talk him out of it. He was insistent he wanted to go, but he didn't lunge at the driver, which has always been the sort of rude allegation made by others. President Trump, former President Trump, is just on fire, trying to make the case that the current president of the United States is doing the wrong thing in not in handling this whole situation with Laken Riley. Now, as you know, do you have that soundbite there, Chris? We have the president of the United States, Joe Biden, apologizing. Well, it's not. I don't know that I would call it an apology, but he does admit that he made a mistake by using the term illegal alien. Which, let's stop for a moment. I don't want you to at me. Illegal alien is the correct term, and that is the legal term used in all federal documents to describe people who come to this country who are not legally coming across and immigrating. If they're in this country illegally, they are called in federal documents illegal aliens. And, of course, when he used that term, in the State of the Union address, he started backtracking almost immediately and said, well, first thing he said was, he said, I've got it right here somewhere. Here it is. He was asked about it immediately the next day after the State of the Union, and he said this.
Well, technically he's not supposed to be here.
Yeah, technically he's not supposed to be here, but I shouldn't have used he just as a legal alien. Then he was asked about it again by another reporter during an interview. Here's that.
During your response to her heckling of you, you used the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley.
An undocumented person. And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented. And look, when I spoke about the difference between Trump and me, one of the things I talked about on the border was that the way he talks about vermin, the way he talks about these people polluting the blood. I talked about what I'm not going to do, what I won't do. I'm not going to treat any of these people with disrespect.
Well, he's not willing to call this person who's now being held, who is in this country illegally, who had all kinds of stuff in his background, an illegal alien, and then he's really concerned, so he wants to make sure that he gets the terminology right. I wouldn't say that he has apologized, but he has said that he was wrong to use that term. Completely oblivious to the fact that what he really should be doing is apologizing to the family of Laken Riley. I mean, that's what should happen. There should be an apology to her for allowing this to happen. But I don't know. I can tell you one thing. The former president of the United States Donald Trump is absolutely crushing Biden in his response to that.
Then just moments ago, I don't know if you heard because you've all been waiting online for 2 days, but just moments ago, this was just before coming up, they just told me prior to what I'm doing right now that Joe Biden went on television and apologized for calling Lincoln's murderer an illegal. He didn't want to call him illegal. He's apologized. He said he should have called him an undocumented, not an illegal, and he wanted to apologize. He wanted to apologize, and, well, they have a new name, too. They have a new name that's even worse. They have a new name. You know what the new name is? Neighbor. They want to call him neighbor. They want to call him another name. Did you ever hear the other one? Newcomer. A newcomer to our country. Are we going crazy or what? Is this country going crazy? How about that one? Newcomer. The newcomer. No, he was illegal. And I say he was an illegal alien. He was an illegal immigrant. He was an illegal migrant. And he shouldn't have been in our country, and he never would have been under the Trump policy.
He's absolutely right about that. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. If you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltzko are two guys you got to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build a new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That is the Stoltzko difference. Pole barns can be used for all kinds of things. It can be a classic tool or work barn, a garage, even a place to live. Flexibility is the key. What they do is they combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe that customers deserve the very best. Go to their website. You'll see what I'm talking about. They'll show you examples of things they've done. Then give them a call. 615-622-5992. Stoltzko, where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. Learn more at stoltzko.com. That's stoltzko.com.